Everyone has something to share, in either wisdom, story, or logic, and it's clearly amazing to hear all the differing missing links discovered by people unique to their own journeys, and in how they have come to discover them. Together, we can help to build a bigger picture for a better future, for a brighter tomorrow. Let's stand united. Let's remove the veils and let's create a new world together. Are you that missing link? Join Jesse Hale on the Missing Link Talk Show as he helps to unveil the mystery through the unique wisdom and store of others.
Welcome everybody here back to the Missing Link. Today we're excited to have back, I believe for the fourth time, someone who's a financial analyst. He's been really delving deep into XRP, and he speaks to the Lord, gets advice, his directed his way, and he likes to share that with the people. So welcome back to the Missing Link, Dave XRPLion. How are you doing today, brother?
I'm doing wonderful, Jesse. Thank you so much. And
Awesome.
I want to start with a quick little story, if you don't mind.
No problem. This is your time to shine.
This past week, I had to stop at the computer store to pick up some stuff because I was doing some upgrading. And that was on Sunday, and it was at a Best Buy. And I walk into the Best Buy, and I go all the way back to the computer section, and I find what I need. It's the only one they have. And I start looking around, and I'm like, where are all the desktop computers? Because that's where I had bought mine. And I'm looking for it because I needed to ask some questions about some memory. And there's nobody in that section of the store. And it's always, especially on a Sunday, it's packed with people, doing upgrades and wanting to buy new systems and everything else. I'm looking all around, and all of a sudden this guy comes walking up and he goes, "Hi." And I go, "Hi." And I look at his badge and it says Intel. And I said, "Where are all the desktop computers?" He just smiled at me and just looked. And I said, "Oh, so they got rid of all the computers because the new ones are coming in." And he got this big grin on his face. He just went. So I go home and I post this on my Twitter channel. And later in the day, somebody responded back and said, "After we heard what you said, my daughter and I had to run to the store to pick up some groceries. And we stopped in at our Best Buy. And it was exactly the way you described it. There was no desktop computers for sale. All the units that were out on display were gone. And they asked the same thing. Where are all the computers at?" And nobody wanted to give them an answer as to what was going on. Now the plot thickens. On the 16th, I ordered from Amazon some more memory for my system. And if I ordered one 2-stick pack, I would have had it the next day. But I was ordering 4 sticks, so it was going to take 2 days. Well, yesterday, it still had not arrived on the 21st. So I get into their chat, and I'm chatting with the person, and they're like, "Oh, well, we can go ahead and put in a replacement order for you." And I'm thinking, well, why are you trying to replace the order I made? Because it hasn't shipped. I'm like, "Is it going to be the same product?" "Yeah." "Okay, go ahead." So I go in and I look, and of course, no charge. And it's supposed to show up on Monday. If you order 1 stick, it supposedly would have come today. But since I needed 2, it was going to come on Monday. I get back on the chat and I'm like, this isn't going to work. Separate orders, have it shipped so I can get it today. Then I get transferred to another person. And I'm explaining the same thing to them, Jesse, what's going on. Then all of a sudden, I have a supervisor on the chat. And I'm explaining to her everything that's happened and what I want done. And all of a sudden, she just says, "Sir, Your order is now free. When you get it, you just keep it. Well, I'm thinking, well, you must think I got the original shipping. So I tell her, no, I never got it. So I said, wait a minute, you're going to issue me a credit, and then you're going to let me keep almost $400 worth of memory. And she says, yes, sir. What is going on, Jesse? I think they're sending us a message that they know this thing is about ready to go off any day, and they don't want to sell any computer parts because they know they're going to be obsolete, because we're all going to the quantum computers, the quantum phones with the 256 terabyte hard drives, 256 megapixel cameras, and then the Q laptops, which are just out of this world. I think we're seeing a clue. We call that a clue. Two different instances. One, everything's gone out of the store. Oh, by the way, Target was selling laptops for 95% off. Let's see if we can get $20 or $50 for it before we get zero. And then we'll just, kind of stick it to somebody to have this thing. And I say all that because information has been coming in the last couple of days that has indicated that we are right there. The redemption centers have turned on. They're adding the codes for the currencies, and they'll get 3 codes, and one of them will go and work, and they have to send the other 2 back so it doesn't activate a different currency. And of course, what we're going to talk about today is the ZIM bond. That is the crux of this message for today for everybody. Now, if I could label this in any way, this is Christmas, everybody. This is your Christmas package, your Christmas gift coming from the Lord. This was not supposed to happen. I went back through my records. It was June 4th of last year. We cracked the code for the ZIM bond. There had never been any pricing out there. There was no understanding of what was going to happen and how it was going to happen. And I just kept collecting these little pieces of information. And I would go back to the Lord and I'd say, well, what are we going to do with this? And he'd say, just hold on to it. Well, I'm doing the pricing discovery for XRP. I'm doing the pricing discovery for gold and the precious metals on the quantum financial system. I'm working on the humanitarian initiative trust documents. I'm doing Nasara Jasara. So my plate was full constantly. And of course, you all know that and how the Lord has me operating with revelation. So I'm super excited because, when he gave me that revelation, he said, Dave, you can't tell anybody the price. And you've all heard me say that many, many times because it could cause financial destruction for somebody. And then we got the announcement from the governor of Zimbabwe that they were able to take all of the gold that they got from the Asian elders that was put up to pay for all of the redemption on the ZIM bond at the redemption center. They purchased all the assets above the ground and then began to give away the land and the homes that people were renting from the government. And God said, no, this is just for you to understand and know. And it's not to be made public. So I honored that. Then when we got the governor to release the announcement that they were gold backed, which we needed to see, right, Jesse? We needed to see all of the gold that the Asian elders put up. It had to be tokenized into a coin. And that became their ZIG, ZIG, Zimbabwe gold. And they gave us an exchange rate. It's kind of like they gave us the car and the keys to the car. but nobody knew what to do with the keys except for me, because I had been prepared and I was waiting. And as I pointed out last time, it took 14 days or 17 days before he would allow me to release those numbers. And twice a week, I update the numbers based upon what's happening in the market with the price of gold and the exchange rate for the dollar to the ZIG. Now, they've already done their in-country conversion. That's all done. And, excuse me, everybody understands what the rate is. And, excuse me, let me just take a little sip here. I'm so excited. My throat is drying up. We were seeing valuations that were in the high $3 to $4 billion per $100 trillion Zimbabwe bond or ZIM bond. Who thought? Right? Who thought that this thing was going to be worth billions of dollars a piece? Frankly, I'm flabbergasted that there's still some out there that you can buy. And I didn't look at the price before I came on, but I imagine it's still $350 for a ZIM bond. That's with the TAP program. That's the Trust Authentication and Protection Program through Banknote World. And I will tell you this, since our last show, Jesse, I've been working with people and hearing stories that people have now gone back using the counterfeit guide that they supplied and I posted, and have found out, sadly enough, that they had fakes that they had bought off the internet through individuals, eBay, Etsy, and it's where all the scammers and the con men are. And they had fakes. And in one instance, somebody had gifted a fake to a friend. Now, the good news is there were still some available for them to purchase some replacements that were authentic. And I was happy for them to be able to do that. But this is what I'm going to say. And I mentioned this to Jesse when we were talking yesterday. At some point before right about the time that you're going to see what the valuations are, we're going to take a little off the air 5-minute break to give everybody time to go to your computers and do whatever you want to do for yourself and your legacy and your family. If you don't take advantage of this opportunity, God's okay with it, because he's put a number in your heart. But if you've been praying and you've been holding out for, since the 2000s, for God to deliver that blessing, this is it, folks. And this in no way is investment advice. We're talking about something that God has put into your heart, and you have an opportunity to take action. Dollar for dollar, there is no greater opportunity right now than the $100 trillion ZIM bond. Flat out. It's not any of the digital assets. It's not any of the other tokens. It's not any of the other currencies. It's the $100 trillion ZIM bond. Now, I've been told that this is probably the last amount that they'll have. They have become so rare that they're scouring the world for these. And I mentioned that last time when they sold out after Jesse and I did the show and they couldn't figure out what happened. What just happened? They're all gone. And the price went from, what was it, Jesse, like $150 or $179 with a 10% discount up to $400. I would not be surprised if they go to $1,000 today. And I'm I mean, I'm as serious as I can be. They only have so many. And they're making the uncirculated notes the priority and the first choice by keeping it priced under what the used notes are. So when you when you see the prices, you don't have to be a rocket scientist, because I know if it had been Bitcoin and somebody said that, people would have marched barefooted to go get it. Now, understand this. It's a humanitarian project bond. The intent is for you to have a humanitarian project or projects that you have on your heart that you want to participate in with God as your partner. And the two of you are going to work together to take care of this. There's no greater opportunity right now than to work with the Creator. And I have worked with him so much since April 3rd of 2021. The love that he has for everybody is off the chart. A day doesn't go by where he's not telling me how much he loves everybody. Now, the devil did a really good job, Jesse, of messing everybody up, didn't he? Making God out to be someone that just wanted to punish people. That's not the case. He's a loving father. There was a covenant that existed between each and every one of us to come into this sin-conditioned world. And by doing so, he promised us a way home. Now, does that sound like a father that just wants to punish you? No. No, he's waiting with open arms. He knows what we've had to do in this world. Now, see, that's where the enemy has twisted it. He's made it as if God has no idea what we've done, what we chose to do. No, God told us you're going to do this stuff. You're going to get into drugs. You're going to get into alcohol. You're going to get into sex. You're going to get into all this other stuff. But I need you to go do that so you can come back to me. And I'm going to absolve you of everything. You're going to be as white as snow. The devil will be able to make no legal claim against you. We're not here to be successful. We're not here to have fancy cars and houses and to be worshiped by man. No, we're here to worship the Father and then get our butts home so we can regain our royal title as sons and daughters and get the inheritance that we're receiving now. And that's what this is all about. God had all of that money laid up on earth, Jesse, by who? Asian elders. For centuries, thousands of years. Just waiting for this moment. So if you're here and you're breathing, you were chosen to be here at this time. I was telling Jesse the other day, they're estimating that over 1 billion people have been lost, that have passed on since the C word, and the J word, and the V word. And that's not it. There are so many more people that aren't going to be here. So we really have to be prepared for what's coming. And I'm just going to touch upon it just very, very, very briefly at the end, because I want to get to the good news. I want to get to the great news. And I want everybody to understand, number one, why is God even letting this information out? Does that sound like a mean and controlling father that wants to punish? No. Not at all. But man did a really good job of hiding it. And I actually have documents from the cabal on how they plan to orchestrate their side of it. And they were going to make sure that only the people that they wanted to have it were going to have it. And their plan was to keep it a secret right up to the last minute. And people wouldn't know. The public wouldn't know. But see, today, June 22nd, 2024, 6/4/6. 6/4/24. That's the 61st anniversary of JFK having signed Executive Order 11110 to eliminate the Fed. So everything that's been taking place has been centered around JFK. And that's what started the Q movement back with Abraham Lincoln. 20 generals put him into the presidency to abolish slavery. Well, on the 19th of June, that was Emancipation Day. It was the day that the United States slavery was abolished. On the 19th of June. So there's so many historical things that are lining up right now, Jesse. And I was making a comment to Susan Price, who you just had on your show, by the way, was incredible. And if any of you out there haven't seen it, and you want to understand somebody who grew up in a military family, her father, she was in the military, her son was in the military. She's a 5-star gold mother. She's been on the stage with Trump. She's in that inner circle. Listen to her story about what's going on. She's the one that found me on the Mel Carmine show after I chose to go on Mel's show, going public. And God just told her, you need to grab that gentleman right there and you need to get him every place he needs to be out there so people can hear the message that God is delivering through him. Because it's God's message, it's not mine. I don't write a script. Jesse and I are just sitting here, we're freestyling with the Holy Spirit. And that's the best way to do it. But it's relevant to what's going on right now. And she said to me, she said, Dave, does it feel like we just turned up the speed? And I said, Susan, you just took the words out of my mouth. This whole week feels like we were operating at 60 hertz and now we're at 600 hertz. Everything is just firing at one time. Boom, 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 boom. And we're hearing about things and then we get the confirmations on them. So why don't I pull up the slide deck, Jesse? And we'll start to go through the slides so we can bring everybody up to speed.
Sounds good.
I got to put my glasses on here for just a second.
And I'm not sure if something is happening with our Rumble. We had like 160 people waiting when we started, and it's down to 39. Some people said there was no sound on Rumble. So if you're having difficulty on Rumble, you can check us out on the different platforms. We're live right now on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and then Rumble. So I'm not sure what's going on with Rumble, but if there is an issue, you can find us on all the different other platforms.
Okay, so can you see this, Jesse? I believe you can. Okay, great. This is just the cover slide that I put together for everybody so that you could see what was going to happen this week. And excuse me. This is what's going on right now. This is what's happening. We know that we have a blackout event that's been taking place. We had the solar eclipse, which really wasn't a solar eclipse in the in the way we would consider a solar eclipse. We have the EBS, we have the Black Swan event. Just the other day, we got confirmation that in the Brunson case, and I've been talking about that heavily, it's already been reviewed and ruled on in private. And the U.S. Supreme Court has been fenced off. It's like an 8-foot fence around the front of it and a smaller fence around the side. But we're expecting a potential announcement at any point in time. And as I pointed out before, that announcement is enough to trigger the EBS and for us to be told to go home. Because we have to get home for safety. And like I said before, don't be a numbskull and be out on the street when they come by. And you may have heard Pascal Najati talk about this. This is war, people. We're at war. And you're going to be considered a combatant, an agitator, a terrorist. And they're going to scoop you up. They're going to take you away. And I can't say it as forcefully as he does. The Lord hasn't given me permission to go that far. But I think his message is very clear. We've talked about what the QFS is. There's nothing you need to do. So don't get scammed into thinking you need to open up a QFS account. You need to move digital assets into a QFS account, or that in some way, shape, or form, there's some requirement for you. No, it's already been done for you. You already have a quantum access account in your name, operating in real time on the quantum financial system. The stock market is going to shut off. Pascal has already confirmed that. And I've been saying this for over a year. We're not going to have the typical violent crash. The Lord did say we would have some flash crashes, and we did have those. So I prophesied that months ago. We saw that with Berkshire Hathaway, losing 99% of its value. And we've seen that happen with Bitcoin. So we're not looking for that type of event. So just be aware of that. The banks, the banks are just fine for what we're doing with them. Our bank account balances are mirrored in real time, so they're 100% safe. Any kind of a retirement account is 100% safe. Anything in a brokerage that's not a retirement account is not, and it will be lost. So if you have stocks, bonds, other investments in a brokerage account, even cash, and it's not liquidated and moved into your bank account. So Charles Schwab to Bank of America, Merrill Lynch to Wells Fargo, you will lose every penny of it, because it's the corrupt cabal system that is being shut down. So think of it as they're cutting all the wires, and they've been doing that with the internet cables to keep anything from coming off of it, trying to come into the new system. Starlink, that's our quantum internet connection. It's also part of our space protection. Many of the satellites are equipped with next level, next gen military equipment to protect us from above. We are under martial law right now. And the reason why we're under martial law is because just prior to the election, Donald Trump handed over our government to the military. And the one that has best described how that has all been handled is Derek Johnson. He's the expert in that. Law of War Manual, Continuity of Government. So by doing that, when the military does take over, he is our commander in chief. He is not our president. And there's a very distinctive difference, because remember, the Congress came to impeach him because he wasn't the active president in that role. See, you can't be the CIC and the president at the same time. So he stepped away from being president. He was CIC, and they couldn't impeach him. That's why it just, it was like part of the SORA program I've talked about. Beware of, IRS, Federal Reserve, U.S. Treasury. We're all taken over by the White Hat Global Military Alliance, along with all other domestic and international 3-letter agencies, and they control all of them. They control the stock market. They're using their own computer algorithms to simulate the market. That's why the market keeps going up. And I wanted to make one point on that. He had me go back over my charts because I've been a professional trader for well over 30 years, developing my own algorithms, managing funds, trading on with the prop traders, things like that. And my cousin's W.D. Gann. So I understand how to use technical analysis. So I'm looking at my chart for the S&P 500, and we're in the last wave up, and I'm looking at my forecast, and all of a sudden it hits me. And I said, Lord, and of course, we already know what we're talking about. He says, yes, we're going up to a final high in the S&P 500 of 5784. Now, some of you might say, that sounds familiar, Dave, 5784. What is it? Jesse, it's the calendar year for the Hebrew calendar right now. Now, tell me that isn't dynamic. That the market goes up and makes an all-time high at 5784, matches the calendar year for the Hebrew calendar, and then everything gets shut off. Kind of like when they dropped the Dow and it went to 666, and it was all the news in the paper. The Dow closed at 666. See, they do that because they can control the close. So the Global White Hat Military Alliance will be able to take care of the close for the S&P 500 to make that happen. So I just wanted to put that out there so people can be watching for that. And we're under 300 points to get there by the 11th of July, 711. Another 711. IRS has been repurposed, and it's going to be a national tax agency operating within the U.S. Treasury Department to collect the consumption tax of 14% that we'll pay. Everybody will pay it. And then what comes out last week, Jesse? Trump says, oh, you know what? We're not going to tax tips. Well, you know what? If we're going to do that, let's just not have income tax at all. Let's just get rid of it. We're just going to create tariffs for countries that are selling goods here. So we're seeing everything that's been identified in the Sarjasara being, quote, put out in front of the public. So these are all clues. Beware the scammers.
Before you move on to that one, can you maybe address this one here? Says, Dave, I know you said to keep in tap sleeves, but I've had people telling me to take them out. The RV won't want the delay the tap sleeve represents. I disagreed with them. Can you weigh in on that? I'm not sure what that means.
Do not remove them from the encasement. The ZIM bonds, $100 trillion ZIM bonds, come in a clear poly sealed casing.
Got it.
If you remove that casing, you've removed the authenticity. that you paid for. They don't have any problem with the casing. Everything can be checked through the casing. So, it's not like you have 1,000 of these. Having, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe up to 10, 20. They can run them through their machines to check. And they also have the certification coming from Banknote World. So they're more concerned with running the other currencies, the dinar, the dong, the bolivar, in the paper money that is in big stacks through the De La Rue machine. But for the most part, don't worry about it. If they want to take it out, believe me, they've already got the equipment there to slide it through. It cuts the edge off. They pull it out. But that's what they do. Okay. Our job is to bring it in a secured fashion to present what we have, let them verify its authenticity, and then we do the redemption and exchange, period. So it's not necessary to do it because it's not necessary. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And one more other thing, someone said they heard that the U.S. Treasury is boarded up. Have you heard anything about that?
A lot of the buildings in DC are boarded up. They're fenced off. They've got the plastic around them. I was told that somebody is actually going there next week to do more filming. I guess this lady named Nancy Drew was there last week. But it amazes me. We have this place, people live there, but nobody ever seems to have any pictures or video. Because I've been told that if you're in certain parts of DC, it's like, looks like normal day. So you kind of have to go to find these places to get off the beaten path to take a look at what's going on. But they've been that way since 2020, when they really took control and they no longer had any power.
Seriously, Ray said that the Fed building has been closed since 2019.
Yeah, there you go. See, and now all of those assets belong to the Republic, because they were given the time to repay for all the debt that they had, the money they had stolen from the system, and they couldn't do it. And I think all of that had to be paid back by March of this year. And of course, they knew they weren't going to meet the deadline. And as a result, all of their assets were handed over to the Republic. When I say the Republic, we can say the new Treasury. The old Treasury is no longer viable. So anything under the Luciferian, deep state, cabal, Khazarian mafia, fractionalized fiat reserve banking system, just put a big X through it. It's done. And all the players too. So we've got the Ripple case that we've been watching. And again, it's part of the SORA program, where it's strategically orchestrated awareness, a reality awareness war. We're in a war. And XRP was being protected by the SEC. And we're going to come to understand that. And what's really interesting is when the Lord made the conversion, or I shouldn't say he made the conversion. Let's just say that it was time to bring the awareness forward. We went from developing a program that was going to require hundreds of attorneys, hundreds of documents and contracts, all kinds of trustees and custodians for our XRP digital tokens or asset to make sure that it wasn't stolen and that it was being redeemed, it was being turned back voluntarily for a price, right? The buyback, what the Lord had me bring. Then all of a sudden we get this clamping down of security issues with non-disclosures coming out of the protocol for the redemption centers. And it hadn't existed before. And it was kind of like, what's going on? Why all of a sudden, all the secrecy? With the understanding that if you didn't keep things secret, they were going to take your money away. And the Lord just said, just like we can take care of the conversion, the exchange for the paper currencies and the ZIM bonds for the redemptions, we can redeem XRP right there too. It adds 2 minutes to the entire process. And I've got the protocol listed in the slide deck, so we can go over that briefly. But again, it isn't a complicated process for all of this stuff. The things that we've had to work through was taking out the evil that kept coming in, trying to steal the money. Matter of fact, I just sent somebody a message this morning. And remember, Jesse, we've talked about Taiwan and how the US and the Taiwanese jet fighters took down the CCP jet fighters. Well, now I know what was going on. There was money that was being stored in Taiwan as part of the currency backing. And they were trying to get to it. Well, it was kind of like, showing up for the gunfight with a toothpick, and they annihilated them. They just canceled their check and eliminated them as a problem. But just think about all the logistics. And that's what's, taken so much time. And they would find nefarious people along the way that would come forward. So what I can say is the information that's been received says right now in 5 states with the Wells Fargo advisor function, the workers are on 1 hour notice to go in 5 states. And I'm going to imagine that those are the West Coast states, just because Wells Fargo has a much bigger presence on the West Coast. But they haven't been to that point where they're basically on call. So they could get a call and they have to be in ready to work within 1 hour notice. So they're not going anywhere. They're sitting at home. Other information is coming out from other bankers who've been told, sit by your phone. Expect a call. They're getting the codes to activate currencies. But there were things that had to happen before this. And I'll just move over to this next slide real quick so we can kind of see some of the things that have taken place. On the 5th of April, the ZIM became 100% gold backed. And that's when they released their country rate with the exchange. And I was able to calculate what the value is in country. Now, they didn't have any of these $100 trillion ZIM bonds to come in for redemption. Why? Because they had bought them all back in 2015 and 16. And as a result of this information coming out, And again, it's just math, people. People can do math. They realized how much these things were worth, and they were smuggling them into Zimbabwe. And they arrested hundreds of nefarious people trying to sneak them into the country for the in-country exchange, or redemption, excuse me. The Iraqi dinar just posted, and the rate was roughly 480 to 530 in country. And I've been saying that it could go up to $17.50 to $28.52. I just got confirmation last night. $28.50, and take note of this. They rounded it $28.50. And I'm gonna give you the real number, but use $28.50 is a rate that you can ask for, and they will give it to you. It's the highest rate for the dinar. So make a note of that in your protocol book. You're going to ask for the rate, and they're going to tell you the rate. And then you're going to say, thank you for giving me the rate. I would like the higher of the special or contract rate. And then you're going to get this right here. So look what's happened. It's gone from 1750, and this is a base 10 number, all the way up to 2850. I'm going to tell you the real number, 28.5714. That's the base 10 math number. That's the number that they're using for all of the currencies and the bonds. It's a mathematical progression that just repeats itself. And it was actually pretty cool when I discovered that, because it was a signpost. It was a way to identify exactly what they were doing. Because remember, this has been the greatest hidden secret around the globe. It's like, I can imagine the non-disclosures on this stuff are like, like treason. You leak that information out. The only difference is I'm working with the greatest insider of all time. The one that created it, God. And there isn't anything he holds back. And I was telling Jesse last night, and I was talking to somebody else. I just finalized my entire schedule last night. And then I worked on one more component of it this morning. I stayed up, and then I relaxed for a little bit, and then came back to it, just kind of let my mind calm down. But the same number sequences were used in what the cabal was going to pay. So nothing's changed. Everybody's finally just getting to see what it is. And you guys are part of a very, very, very finite group of people that are having this opportunity. I mean, we're making history today, people. This date is going to be known in history as the date that the special contract rate for the ZIM, the highest rate for the Iraqi dinar, was made public. And it's not about me. It's about our creator. He made that possible. I just got the privilege of showing it to you. That was my contribution. So we give all the praise and glory to him constantly, because he already did all this. They're supposed to have their new ATM machines installed with their new currency by this weekend. And it's interesting, by the 24th, which is 666, which is the number of man. On the 11th of April, Trump signed the new republic, our new republic, into the BRICS Accord. And by doing so, it ended the central banking system, so will not be any CBDCs. The Federal Reserve was neutralized. They can't print money. They're basically just a board. They're being remapped. The IRS remapped, and the Treasury Department remapped. Our Treasury Department is in Reno right now. That's where it exists. And of course, SCOTUS heard and ruled on the Brunson case behind closed doors. I think, Jesse, that could pop off on Sunday, tomorrow. And I say that because of the calendar and how the progression of the timeline moves forward. 10 days of disclosure plus 3 days. Then we have 10 days, 9 to 10 days to go through the redemption centers. They'll be open 24 hours a day, nationwide and around the globe. Some people will have longer appointments than others, and that will all be decided when you make your call to the call centers, regional call centers, and they go through their know your client requirement. And for people that don't have currencies, don't have bonds, they're going to have a different protocol. And they need to know what protocol to use when these people walk through the door. You know, if you're somebody that has $100 trillion ZIM bonds, they're going to find that out right up front. And your protocol is going to be completely different than somebody else. You may have a team of people. You may have an entire day there because they have to authenticate all of your currencies and your bonds. So just be prepared. You know, it's not a rush when it takes place. We're not supposed to be, what's the word I want to use? We're not supposed to be anxious. And that's why we do these things. That's why we get this information out there. So you're controlled. So you are polite and you understand the process. See, they're actually earning they're earning 0.25% as a fee for processing you through the redemption center. So it's a big deal when we're talking about what we're talking about today. And I don't even know if they know the rates yet. But if there's any of them watching today, they certainly will, which is awesome. We had the Prime Minister, Netanyahu, and his entire cabinet resign. I think that was on Thursday, Jesse, when that happened. They said, your time's up. You no longer need to complete your role in central casting. We can now take you away and we can begin the final part of your agreement, whether it's termination, whether it's life in prison, whatever it is. But that was a huge marker for all of us. And that's why I wanted to kind of give these points, these historical points, because until that cabinet and Netanyahu stepped away, we couldn't move to the next phase. And then get this, what happens, you know, the day or half a day after that, Trump appears, and I can't remember if it was at a Senate function or at a rally, but he apparently raised his right hand as if to be sworn back into office. Sworn back into office. Everybody, that's enough to say the lights are about ready to go out. So we should be making sure that we're getting everything that we need to have done. And when I close this interview with Jesse, I'm going to help you understand why. Okay. There's going to be a solar eclipse This isn't going to be nature made. It's going to be Space Force created. It's more likely going to look like an EMP because we have an issue that we're being protected with or from, and that's a polar flip or a flop. My mentor, who trained the Chicago floor traders, told me back in the 90s, he said, Dave, the last one that took place was about 12,500 years ago, and they happen every 12,500 years. So there's another one coming. I then came to learn from my contact who was the #1 gold timer for over 15 years, and the one that told me about what was happening in Hong Kong right before we went on the Seaward cruise and got locked down for 14 days in Tokyo Harbor, and then was evacuated on a cargo plane to Lackland Air Force Base for another 14 days of armed guard detention. What was going on? Well, I just heard from him on June 6th. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what he shared with me. But they've been monitoring this polar flip-flop. The last one, we had a complete 180-degree rotation. This one has been described as a 90-degree rotation. And that we were within 1 degree of its activation. And they've been monitoring it in real time. And I'll just say, I'll try to keep and not tell the whole story, Jesse, because of what's coming up for you. But we were taken to a safe place back on the 8th of April. And I believe that it's correlated to this event right here. And that's all I'm going to say about it right now. So let me come back here.
Can you answer a couple questions?
Sure. Fire away.
Okay, we've got here's from our Rumble, K Thompson 3034. I'm supposed to go out of town Tuesday evening and will not be back until July 7th. What do you think the odds may be of this coming in and getting an appointment this Monday or Tuesday? I imagine if you're not in town, the appointment you'll be able to schedule afterwards. And then here's kind of a similar question. Jesse, please ask Dave, if I'm going on vacation in Puerto Rico, do I take my ZIM bombs and HIT with me? So it's similar, but I think, can kind
if you're going to be right. Great. Those are great questions, by the way. And I know it is creating some anxiety for people about leaving. Realize that wherever you're at, there's a redemption center within 50 miles. So wherever you're at, when the power goes down and everything kicks off, you're just going to hunker down. And that could be with family. It could be, you're on a business trip and you're stuck in the hotel. Just make sure that you have some of the extras that you might need, small denomination money. If you do have currencies and bonds, and you do one of two things. You can either take them with you, which I would not suggest, because you've got them in a safe place right now. And there will be time for people to travel. And we don't know what that looks like yet. So I'm sorry I can't, give you absolutes and definitives. But they know people are going to be away from home. And there's nothing they can do about that. And the way it's been described to me is there's going to be some open window for people to get back. Because remember, people have to get home, but we also have people that are going to be leaving the country that have to go to other places around the world for their Jasara. So, think about those logistics. If you've got it someplace where it's safe, keep it safe. Don't try to live your life around these events. Just let them be when they are, and don't stress about it. Because it's going to be a time for rejoicing, not panicking.
Know that you'll be okay.
That's right. That's right. You're going to be safe.
Believe, not just believe, know that you'll be okay, you'll be guided, and God's got your back, right? You're a good heart, you're a pure heart. Know that you'll be okay. So the last thing you want to do is being stressing and worrying. Just do the best decisions you think are best for you and your family, and know it'll be okay.
Exactly. And that's why, what you can do in the interim is have a family meeting. You should have a family meeting. Even if they don't, they think you're crazy. Just say, hey, it's okay if you think I'm crazy, but I want to have a family meeting because I just want to make some things public. You don't have to believe them, but at least you will hear them. It's like, who's the one that's going to go to the store? Is it you or your spouse? Who's going to pick up the kids? See, we have to know how to maneuver when we get this notification, because the phones aren't going to work. So you already have to have your game plan mapped out. Who's got the soccer ball collapsible cart in the back of their car with the cooler bags and the grocery bags? So when you go to the store, you're fully self-contained. That means you have to be taking the money, the paper money, to be able to pay for this stuff at the grocery store. Don't expect your credit cards to work. All the large banks have already gotten rid of their credit card providers. So people can't run up the credit in that window. They don't want you buying the $40,000 bottle of Mouton. And they get stuck with the bill. Like I said before, you want to be able to get through the process as simply and as correctly as you possibly can, because you're not walking out of that store without paying. You don't want that on your heart. You're going to help people if you can, but just know your plan. Work your plan. Plan as if it was for 2 weeks or 3 weeks from now, but be ready if it's tomorrow. Any other question, Jesse?
Yeah, there's another one I thought you would be interested in answering. Jesse, could you ask Dave, if my son lives in another country, will he have time to come back to the US and schedule his appointment?
Is he in the service? Is that why he's away? Or for school or something like that? Is he a U.S. citizen? There will be time. There will be time. But there again, we don't have full comprehension on the logistics. Now, any and all variables have already gone through the AI computer system, Adam, to factor out how to take care of all this stuff. Some of it's going to be awkward. It's not going to be convenient, but they've devised a plan for it. So again, those are the questions that you're going to have written down on your piece of paper to ask them when you make that phone call to the regional call center. Because you're going to get an 800 number that's assigned to you, so they know who the caller is. And they're going to ask you, do you have any questions? You only get one opportunity. There is no callback number. And that's why in that protocol book, we lay out the steps. List all the questions you have. They're there to answer those questions, so you know exactly what to do. I would probably suggest for most people, request that you and your spouse have a joint appointment. And why would you want to do that? Well, number one, usually one person in the household takes care of the finances. So they're used to making decisions. But together, both of you can make decisions. Now, everything is going to be split between the two of you. Your bank accounts are going to show up split. Your Nassar Jassara is split. Whatever each of you decide to turn in for the currencies for exchange or the bonds for redemption, that goes into your account. There is no joint account on the quantum financial system in a quantum access account. So there's one for Jesse and there's one for his wife. There's one for me and there's one for my wife. The only time that we have the ability to bring our quantum access account values together is if we decide to transfer money into a bank that already exists. Bank of America, our credit union, whatever it is. You can have separate accounts, you can have joint accounts. And sometimes we know that we have to have joint money. So we just put a little bit of money in the account for joint money. Initially, that's what you're going to use to pay your bills. You know what bills you do have, because your credit cards are going to be zeroed out. If you and again, I qualify that because there's a certain requirement, and I'll use the term seasoning for credit cards, for loans, for mortgages, and other things that are being paid off. Just because you have a mortgage doesn't mean it's going to be paid off. It has to be in a credit institution. It can't be you bought your parents' house and you're making payments to them. No, any personal debt stays between individuals. Business debt gets paid off because it's in the corporate financing world. Business accounts get split with the officers. So, you can see just the complexity of all this stuff. And then we're going to have separate accounts for each one of the currencies, or might as well just call them bonds, because they're all being pulled into being treated as bonds. So you're going to have a separate one for your dinar, separate one for your dong, separate one for your ZIM, your bolivar, et cetera, et cetera. So they're keeping everything separate and accountable for the XRPL, the accounting system, because it's really what it is. It's a quantum accounting system. It's like QuickBooks on steroids. And it has every transaction going all the way back to the 1700s. There isn't anything that isn't on there, because all the digital tokens are on the XRPL. The XRPL is the quantum financial system. The only difference is it has a connection in the third dimension world, our world, and then it has a connection through the gateway, which XRP opens the gateway, so it's stored and it's protected there. So it can't be hacked. Nothing can be stolen.
Here's a question from CLG Warren 19. Thank you both for everything that you're doing, and praise God. But I had a question in regards to how does the Redemption Center staff know how to contact me? Do I need to provide that somewhere? Do people have to go and find redemption centers, or will the redemption centers be finding them?
No, do not go out and start hammering the banks. Whoever put that information out there, it was disinformation that was intended for military ops. to round up nefarious people. The protocol is in the videos. It's in the guidebook that I put out, and it's very specific. We are going to be notified and given an 800 number. That's going to come through our phone with text. It's possible it comes through our computer as an email, but we're going to get notified like 8 times. Here's your designated number. You're going to call this 1-800 number. It identifies you. Here's your passcode, and this you're going to schedule your redemption center appointment. They're going to do their KYC, know your customer, to make sure it's you and somebody isn't impersonating you. They're going to schedule they're going to ask you for your zip code, where you are at that moment, not where you live, but where you are. Because you could be in Chicago and you live in California. You could be in London and you live in Seattle. And based upon that, they're going to route you to a call center that services that district. That's where your appointment's going to be made. And they're going to give you all the particulars. And that's when you ask your questions. And you follow the protocols that are listed in the guidebook. So all of this has been out there for well over 1.5 years. So it's pinned on my Twitter page at the top, because it's part of the Humanitarian Initiative Trust work. And you've got everything that you need. If you go to my website, which is XRPLion.com, you can download the PDF for the guidebook. So the guidebook is the paper version that you can print off of what was contained in the video, in the slides. So you get a workbook. So you don't have to keep going back and watching the video over and over. And it has forms in there that you can fill out. It has gift letters. It has all those great things. So it's 40-something pages. So I'd suggest going to www.davexrplion.com, and you'll see the little icon for the PDF. Click on it. It'll download onto your computer, save it, and then print it off. And that's what you're going to want to use. Keep notes and stuff. Take that with you. But it's not a hard process. What's happening is more people are coming to understand what's going to take place, and it's kind of like having to have an intro class every day, because so many people are now coming to learn what's taking place. And Twitter isn't the best place to try to figure out how to get information to people. It's like, well, go look for that post. Where is it? You know.
Buttercup Yeshua says, note, if the phones are down, how do we call 800 numbers for our appointments? And then we had that was from a Rumble, and then a Veridade Pode Mudar Atua Vida says the phones will be on again after the EBS.
They have control of everything. So they will turn them off, they will turn them on. So you're going to want to make sure that you've got chargers to keep your phones charged up, and they'll be communicating to you through your phone to let you know what's going to be taking place. I don't know what that looks like yet because we haven't seen it, but it's all coming through Starlink. So they are ready to go with their 7,777 satellites. And we had to wait for all those to get up there in space. So, I mean, we're ready to go, gang. We are ready to go. And the calendar and the timeline, remember, it's about events, right, Jesse? It's not about dates. The White Hat Military Global Alliance creates the events that fall on dates. They don't use dates to create the events. So the AI computer system tells them exactly what needs to be done. And then they go do it. And then wait for the next thing. Because what does everybody say? The biggest question that comes back to me, Jesse, what are we waiting for, Dave? What has to happen for this thing to happen? Does Biden have to be taken out of office? Do we have to arrest Congress? All of that's going to take place, but it isn't the end all be all. Because the moment they make that hitting of the switch and the markets turn off and the EBS goes out, the military moves right in and they just take Biden out in the administration because they've already been taken out. At the end of this week, everything floating around with Biden was his announcement that he died on Ancestry.com. When he died, where he was a Gitmo. So they're putting out the truth so fast right now. It's like, wait a minute, did that happen on Thursday, or was that Thursday morning? Was it Thursday afternoon? What happened on Wednesday? It's just amazing the hyperspeed at which everything's taking place. Trump being sworn back in. I mean, I look at that. I look at Netanyahu being gone because Israel was last. We're there. What more do we need to do? Just make sure we got our groceries and the cars are filled up with gas. We know what our family plan is, who's going to do what, where we're going to go. Do we have our humanitarian initiative trust template completed? And I wanted to make a comment upon that, Jesse, if you don't mind.
No problem.
The template itself, and this is how I want you to think about it. The template itself, when it's completed, you're not graded on it. It's a ticket. What it says is, I'm identifying myself as a humanitarian. I have initiatives that are on my heart that I want to do. So give me a temporary trust. And by doing so, I get to control 100% of the redemption money. I'm not contributing to the domestic and global initiatives with my redemptions. That's the key. It's a ticket to the show. If you don't have the ticket, and you're going to see what the ramifications are for that, you would kick yourself for not getting it done when it's 99% done already. And again, it's okay that it's not being graded. Remember, I want to say this the right way. It's a test to see who can follow directions. That's why you're not supposed to change anything. You don't change the pictures. You don't change anything on there. You stay within the format. Why? Because they know if you can't follow instructions, and I don't mean you as a person, then you're not going to be able to meet the off-planet requirements for compliance. You're not going to do the accounting. You're not going to have the right paperwork for the money that you put out there. You're going to dip into it for personal pleasure when that's not what it's for, the bulk of it. So they're just trying to get a heads up on you right up front. to make sure that you're the type of person that's going to be able to carry through, because they don't want failure. They don't want a program where 95% of the people fail because they can't follow directions. But I know everybody that is listening here knows how to follow directions, because you guys are a whole level above everybody else. And it's not for everybody. There's going to be a lot of people that wish they had the opportunity, but they just didn't key in. Or they get to participate at the $1 million level, not the $1 billion level. And that's okay, because they can work their way up if they do the right things. So, again, it's such a blessing and such an opportunity that we couldn't have set this up by ourselves. I mean, I feel privileged because Susan Price trusted me enough to take it over, to package it up, to put together the training material, to make it so that it was 99% done. I mean, you wouldn't believe the work that she put in when she first introduced it. She was doing these for people at no cost, taking her own time to put them together with barely a thank you.
I just have to cut in here for a sec. So there's a lot of scammer accounts out there. This is one of them. Someone just asked for your links. This is a picture of Dave's, like his profile. It says the Dave XRPLion. It says, please feel free to message the email below for anything you'd want to know. Most importantly, how to get about your QFS account email, official Dave XRPLion show q1@gmail.com. This is not him. Whenever we have them on, there's tons of scammers that come to all of our platforms and trying to get people to email them and to do whatever. I'm not sure what exactly that is. This is a scammer. So someone was just asking for your links, and then this message popped up. So I was wanting to warn that person before they email this person that this is a scammer. There's lots of them out there. He doesn't even have a Gmail account. So, this is the crazy part, is that, so I just wanted to aware that lots of people out there. So I'm posting the links. I posted the links again. I'm obviously blocking and deleting this one. I do tons of work on blocks and deletes every time we have you on. There's a whole whack.
Let's put it this way, Jesse. You're not going to contact me, and I'm not going to contact you. Flat out. There just isn't any time. I think I have the most imposters of anybody out there right now. It's like whack-a-mole. You take down 3 and 20 pop up. But see, it's okay. It's okay that they do this, and we want them to do it. Because as we've learned from Pascal, every time they tweet, every time they do an email, every time they talk, every time they do anything, Space Force has their number. And they're out apprehending and terminating these people. He created a new moniker, social media terrorists. So they have to keep letting them pop up. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to catch them. And I had to post something the other day because, we know as we get closer to this end time for this, that the enemy's only remaining strategy through his minions is to try to create a fence. And the Lord revealed that so we would be aware that the people closest to us, family, friends, neighbors, coworkers, have gone on the attack mode for no apparent reason, other than they still are holding on to their self-inflicted narcissism. I mean, I've come under so much attack the last week from people that you'd say, Dave, why Why are they attacking you? Who knows? But the minions are using them and they're going berserk. And then they want to grab other people to pull into it.
The dark is on a sinking ship. And, they're trying to take as many people down with them, cause as much chaos and confusion as they can along the way to take people off their true path. So just know, you could be caught in the crossfire if you aren't standing on your own square, if you're not, truly using your discernment and letting people sway you from one direction to another. Know that and just believe in your heart. Know that you have a true connection to our Creator and just follow that direction. Don't let people take you off your path. Things may get a little bit hectic, a little bit scary, a little bit, crazy, but just know that if you truly believe in yourself, your heart, and the Creator, you'll be okay.
Exactly. And these are what are called black souls. These are people who are more concerned with their needs or their reputation or their feeling superior. And when they begin to lose that control, they go on the attack mode and they look to pull people in, like Jesse said. So we have to be very careful that we don't allow ourselves to be pulled in to these situations, because we now open ourselves up to the Space Force. Because as Pascal noted, it's grab, terminate, boom, boom. There's no questions. You've been identified as a social media treasonist, terrorist. You don't talk your way out of it. Your actions have already spoken. Your texts, your emails, your telegram. And that's the last thing that a narcissist, because we've all been there. I've been there. We just don't see it. We don't see the signs. A lot of people get threatened because they're losing revenue through their videos, through their merchandising, through their discords. And they want to get back at the people that have taken their viewership away, rather than trying to get involved in that. So you have this fragmented and fractured system. I mean, it's about all of us. We're all a part of it. No one greater than any other. But that's not how they act. So we just have to be aware of it. We have to cover it with love. And if people try to pull us into it, we just say, no thanks. That's not where I want to be. I'm not about trying to tear people down. I'm about loving people right now, because that's where we're going. And you might suggest to them they need to stop it, because sometimes they just need a rational voice to shake them out of it. Because if you're not able to do it, Space Force will. And again, Pascal was very adamant about that. You guys just keep doing it, he said. Keep doing it. Because you're not going through. And that was the Lord's concern from day one. Making sure that his called and chosen are not going to have that offense in their heart, and they're going to make it through the Redemption Center. And that's my desire for everybody. I don't want to see anybody lost. So, Jesse, can we move forward here real quick?
Yeah, just one last thing. Michelle Doucette, who he's had here on the Missing Link a few times, has gotten her children stolen by the corrupt system. Here's one of her comments. I was exposing all in 2020. They shut down all her social media, stole her daughter. She needs help to get back from these criminals. I was exposing all of this while everyone was still sleeping. Not everyone, but you know, a lot of people are still sleeping. She was asking earlier, what about the judge's bonds? How does she, you know, kind of find any redemption for them? You know, what they've done to steal her children, or children are still not with her. How can any ideas on how, you know, to help her get her children back and, you know, hold the people responsible?
Pascal said to contact your local National Guard.
She's in Canada.
What do you have?
We
What do you
haven't-
have that's equivalent?
I'm not sure. We're under the British Crown, RCMP. She's tried to contact, you know, them. I'm not sure what the National Guard would be like. So I guess maybe I'll ask him that.
Yeah, that'd be a good question.
Okay.
Find out. But again, time is so short, and we know that, you know, a lot of this stuff has happened, and it's been very difficult to live and work through. But just know that we're coming out the other side, and they've been doing everything that they possibly can to eradicate it, working overtime, so to speak. And they're about 99.99999% done. And the Redemption Center is the last waypoint for people to be taken up and away. Med beds. Anybody that has a ZIM bond is going to have first access to the med beds. So be aware of that. They're going to release over 6,000 patents. I'll skip 17 for now.
I just wanted done the medbed issue. When we talked to Susan, she feels the medbeds are going to be coming this year.
Oh yeah,
When we
64,000 of them already.
And when we interviewed Gene, he was saying that the financial issues got to be taken first before the med bed. So does that maybe mean that the financial is going to be taken care of soon if the med beds are going to be coming this year?
Yes. The med beds are already in place. They're already in locations. They just haven't been disclosed yet. And part of the reason why the holders of the bonds go first is because they want to get us 100% well, so that we can get started on our humanitarian projects. They don't want the humanitarians to have to wait, and then they pass before they get to the medbed. So that's why we go first with the military. And it's like there'll be an appointment scheduled at the Redemption Center. So it's a two appointment process. First appointment is a complete scan, which produces all of the information they need to know what they're going to do on the second appointment. And it's one and done. So if they only have to do procedures that last 15 minutes for the second visit, you're in and out. If it takes 18 hours, you'll be there 18 hours. But when you leave, you'll be better than new. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. 18. It's come to my awareness through this person I was telling you about that just updated me. I've talked about the fact that Congress allowed all of the motherboards in personal desktop computers and laptops to have a kill switch incorporated into the motherboard. We were never told about it. This was put through as a way of protecting secret and confidential information for government, for agencies, for corporations. And now, through the J word and the V word, MAC addresses and IP addresses have been inserted into human beings. What does that mean? It means that anybody that has had the V word or the J word is a walking antenna. that Space Force can listen to 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. They hear every conversation. They know everything that you're doing. They know where you're at. And when the revelation hit me last week, it was one of those, oh, geez, moments, because I knew about the computers. And why would we want to turn all the computers into a brick? Well, because we don't want any nefarious information systems programs to ever be able to be used again. And they're also not allowing pornography, illicit music, anything of that nature going on to the new quantum financial system into your quantum access account. So it's best to just encapsulate it all so that nothing's ever recoverable. And I want to make a point while I'm saying that, because this came up in a conversation I had last night. Anything that you have on the cloud that you want to keep, that you are going to deem good and pure, you have to put it onto an external hard drive before all this happens. But you need to make sure that when you do your downloads, when you're done, you remove it from being plugged into your computer. Because if you don't, it will be locked up when they lock up all the PC computers. Does that make sense, Jesse? So it has to be detached.
Yeah.
And the best thing to do is, have your drive and then throw it into a Faraday bag when you're done with it. Because we're going to have a Space Force simulated EMP situation. Because that's how they're going to tell the public that's why all the computers are locked up. It just wiped them out. Well, they're just going to hit the switch and turn all the computers into bricks. But I bring this up because they're now going to do it to the nefarious people with these MAC and IP addresses. So they can use a Space Force simulated EMP that will connect with the MAC and IP addresses, and it will cause so much internal damage that that body won't reboot. It'll be terminated. And the numbers that are being projected right now are 5 to 70% of the population. Now, I want to be very careful in how I say this, because that's pre the 10 days of disclosure and the 3 days of additional information. So, Dave, what's the bottom line? The bottom line is get back to God, because if you're His, you're protected. Your heart's going to be pure. You're going to make it through the Redemption Center. And this is all going to be deactivated. So the Redemption Center is a big deal. And that's what Charlie Ward realized that day in the green room before I came on his show with Susan Price, is this redemption is a redemption of who we are. It's not just about money. And there is time to get fixed, make it right with God. And it doesn't take much. You can do it 5 hours from now.
You can do it right now.
You can do it right now. All you have to do is accept God, who became flesh and blood as Jesus, into your heart. Acknowledge that He died for your having to have a sin or having to have a self-inflicted narcissistic nature, which God told you you had to do it. It wasn't like, you couldn't say, "Oh no, I'm not going to do it." No, he said, "No, I know you have to do it. Go do it. And I'm going to provide you the way home." So he became flesh and blood. He provided the way. And no matter what a person's religion, no matter what a person's beliefs, the process is the same for everybody. And it's not a religious experience. It's a one-on-one between you and the Father. Acknowledging what he did to redeem you from the sin nature of the world. It's not about punishment. See, and this is where the devil twisted it. He got everybody to believe, and then the church, the Vatican, the Rothschilds, they used MK Ultra programming, so we would think God wanted to punish us, that we were not worthy of redemption, and that God had no desire for us to be with him again. It was all false. So we bought into the lie. From this moment on, you know the truth. You don't have to accept the lie anymore. You can come running home and jump into his arms. Because one thing he made very clear, that when you're his, he's your protector. He's your provider. Nothing can come against you once you're his. Now, if you're not his, then you're going to be tormented, and you've been tormented. But you can say enough is enough right now. And everything changes from this moment going forward. But I want you to know that we want you to be with us. We want you there with the generations of children that will never know evil. The love, the peace, and the happiness and the joy that we're all stepping into, that we were denied because there were those out there against us, stealing, killing, and destroying. So I thank you for letting him in today, into your heart. Thank you, Holy Spirit, for showing them the way. Because I don't want that number to be that high. But we've already lost 1 billion people. We lost 12.5% of the population. And we haven't even gotten to the redemption centers yet, people. I don't want to see 30% more of the population gone because they weren't aware that they could change this. So share the message. Let them know you care enough to tell them, whether they think you're crazy or not. Because I had a situation with one of my fishing buddies up in Washington State. I just loved on him every single time I got an opportunity to fish in his boat in my fishing club. And I didn't pound him. I just loved on him. And then all of a sudden, he had a situation arise where during the lockdowns, right after the lockdowns were over, he ended up having a heart issue, like a heart attack. And I remember he texted me and he said, "Dave, this is what happened to me when I was headed home after seeing my son." And he said it was the most terrifying moment in my entire life. And all I could think about was calling and crying out to God. And he said, when I got to the emergency room, the doctors couldn't find anything wrong with me. Everything, every symptom, everything was just fixed.
Healed.
And he said, I know it's because you shared the love of God with me without sharing it with me, if you know what I mean. I wasn't, a Bible thumper telling him what he needed to do. No, I just loved on him because perfect love casts out all fear. And that's what we're supposed to do now. It's just love on people. So I hope that is encouraging for everybody today. That's one of our greatest assignments.
Remember, God is love. That means you were created in God's image. So that means you are love. So to know God is to know love. So know love thyself, love thy neighbor, love God first and foremost. And, you will be okay.
Amen. Amen. It says right in the word that once you're his, you can even drink snake venom and it won't harm you. And that's what it was all about. Creating king cobra venom. It wasn't a virus. It wasn't anything but that. And I was at ground zero. They were dropping like flies all around us on the cruise ship. Never touched us. But I figured out what they did. That's for another story. But, again, when you're his, he's a jealous dad. He's not letting anything come against you. Whether it's people, whether it's minions, he just clears them out. Once we give him the praise and thanksgiving for having already done it, you can't stop the Holy Spirit. You can't stop legions of angels. You can't stop principalities. But God has a whole team that he calls into action for us the moment we're his. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say about that right now. It's an awareness that has been kept, well hidden without a lot of disclosure, but it's all been scientifically proven. And I have the information. I just haven't had a chance to put it out there yet because time is so short. But let me move through some of this stuff, Jesse.
I just needed to answer a couple questions for the stuff that you were talking about. So when he's talking about, putting an external hard drive into your computer to take the files off from an external drive, so it can't be on your computer, but on something external. And when he's saying a Faraday cage, he's meaning there's like a protective bags lined with silver. There's different things that you can stick that into. So if someone was like, how do I disconnect my computer? You're not disconnecting your computer. You're actually, taking files, putting it onto a hard drive or a USB stick or something off of your, computer, and then putting into some kind of protective, Faraday cage. There's lots of them out there.
It's a sleeve. You can go on Amazon and they sell like a kit with 5 different sizes, from the size of your key fob to your phone to your laptop to a iPad size device for $35. Now, the biggest Faraday cage you have in your house is your microwave oven. So you can pile everything into the microwave if you want to.
The microwave's a Faraday?
Yes, it is.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yep. So, again, what we're talking about is an external hard drive is a hard drive, whether it's got moving parts or it's electronic, and it has a cord that plugs into a USB port. And once it's plugged into your computer, it registers as an available drive. It's not built into your computer. It's on the outside. And there's software that you can get that's free. I'll look up the program that I use so we can post it. But it literally lets you take your entire PC and it'll tell you all the files that you have and what's not on the external drive. So it says you have none of these files over here on your external hard drive. They're all sitting over here on your computer. Do you want to move them? Click yes. And they all move over. And then you can do it once a week, and it'll show you all the files that have been modified or the new files that aren't on the external hard drive. Do you want to move them? Boop. And over they go. So it's not a real hard process, but you have to desire to want to keep that stuff. So you're pulling everything off of your Google. You're pulling everything off of your iPhone. They make little USB ports that you can plug into your iPhone, and you can download everything from your phone into the little device. And you take that little device, plug it into your computer, move it from that drive over to the external hard drive. But it hit me when I was thinking about this, getting that final revelation about the MAC and the IP addresses. We got to unplug the darn thing. Because if we don't, it's still connected and it's an open circuit. So that just makes it easy for us. But if you don't care about any of it, then don't worry about it. It'll all be gone and you start fresh. But there will be a time when we can upload onto our Quantum Access account things that we want to put on there, pictures and things like that. But there'll be no pornography, no illicit music. And if you get flagged as one of those people trying to put it on, then you're really going to be under a lot of scrutiny, and you just don't want that. So just make sure none of that's on there, because we're going to get all new cool stuff. We're going to have so much cool music that it makes the other stuff like, why did we ever listen to that? So that's kind of exciting. But you have to take the first step. I use a little I just use a little tiny drive that I got at Best Buy for a couple $100, and it has like 6 terabytes on it. And when you're talking about music files and things like that, those don't have a big footprint. So it's easy to just drop everything over. See, I don't do anything on my computer now that doesn't go to that drive. I store nothing on my computer. Everything goes to that drive. So I know, just unplug it at night, put it in the Faraday bag, and I'm covered. Okay, that's what's happening. Here's what's going to happen.
One more thing, we just want to let you know we've got around 1,000 people here live with us right now.
Fantastic. Thank you all for taking time out today to hear this. You are the voices to let other people know. And this is, excuse me, I get indigestion when we start talking about this stuff. I'm so excited. We're not here to, and we've talked about this before, we're not here to convince. We're just here to disseminate. So if we can all just see ourselves as a disseminator, we can just freely pass this information out there for people. And if they want to take a look at it, that's up to them. But we don't have any responsibility. So I want to make sure that you're understanding the request is just to be a disseminator. Don't worry about if people aren't looking at it or they don't want to see it. It's okay. God already knows who needs to know what, and he'll make sure that they do. So let me talk about redemption centers. Redemption centers are now online. They've got people notified for 1 hour calls to work. And that is going to happen for us as the general public. We are going to do all of our exchanges and all of our redemptions through these financial service centers. They're not banks. When I say banks, I mean a retail deposit, ask for money banking center. We're going to be in the upper tiers of a building, multi-story building, where they would do the private wealth management. And those are mainly coming out of Wells Fargo advisor offices. Now, I found my office, and all I did was I went to Google and I typed in Wells Fargo advisors. I hit return. The Google map popped up with all the little pins in it. And I started clicking on the pins. If you click on the pin and it's a one-story building, move on. If you click on it's a multi-story building, look to see if it has hours of operation. The ones that they're using for Nusara Jasara don't have hours of operation. That's how you can distinguish them. They have personnel that are assigned, but no hours of operation because they're not open yet. And that's how I found mine. I pretty much knew where it was. The Lord showed me where it was. So I've been watching it every Sunday as I drive by it to go to church. So they're ready to go. They've got security in the parking lots. They have security on the inside. And as I've noted before, they said, you won't go out the door you came in. But use the protocol guide so you know what the requirements are and what you need to do. Currency and exchanges. That's both domestic and foreign. The Iraqi dinar is said to be live. And again, the $4.80 to $5.30 is the in-country rate. And that, say, $17.50 to $28 is the special contract rate. Originally, the currencies, dinar, dong, bolivar, those were identified as currencies. So when you did the exchange, you would receive all the funds. Now, what I've seen is they're now pulling them under the bond program, which makes them part of the humanitarian effort. Now, why would they do that? They're realizing people are getting so much money for everything that is being restored, redeemed, reclamated back to them, that they're trying to help conserve that money so it's there over time, because it's legacy money. We know that through the medbed technology, there's age regression up to 30 years, up to 3 times. So that right there can add 90 years to a person's life because there won't be any disease. We won't be taking the poison medications from Big Pharma. We won't be eating the poisonous foods. Jesse's going to have a whole line of this beautiful, organic, nutrient-rich food that we can all tap into. He's going to be like the jolly green grocer of Canada.
The world, we want to do this throughout the world. So obviously we want to just create a template so that way other cities and everybody else can do. But we're just going to go through every city throughout the world until every city is growing their own food that can feed their own people, because that's one of our biggest missions, is to stop world hunger.
Well, and think of Jesse's program as like a continuum. People will go there to be trained and equipped and to learn how to do this, so then they can go off and help other people. And that's what this whole process is about for all of us. If we can't equip and we can't train people to do what needs to be done, then it won't get done. And God's given us such a grand sense of direction that there is no failure when we work with him. And it won't be a situation where we're just a slave to it. We'll spend 62% of the time with him and only 37% of the time actually working in our projects, because we'll have the finances to employ the integrators and those to do the work, which is dynamite. We're the visionaries. We're the ones seeing into the future with God, getting direction. So you've seen I've under bond redemption, I have the ZIM, which is now 100% gold backed. The Iraqi dinar pulled in. The dong pulled in. So if you can look at the rate that I have for the dong and just extrapolate it out to an in-country rate, it's going to be up in that double-digit range. So everything is, I want to put this the right way. They're using God's base 10 math, which is perfect math. It operates in harmony and balance. It's how he created the universe for all this pricing. And it's the same math that I used to do the XRP pricing discovery for $1 million, 100 quadrillion for all the money calculation. It's the same structure that I used to determine the value of gold on the quantum financial system at $39,062.50 an ounce, from $1,953.12.5 an ounce. And you're going to see this in the math. See, I'm not just going to give you the numbers. I'm going to show you the math, so you can see how this came to be. Because what do we know about math, Jesse? It's the only language that doesn't lie.
It's universal.
It's God's universal language.
Doesn't matter what doesn't matter what language you speak. Everyone can communicate through math. That's
right. That's right. So let me see where we're at here. Okay, I wanted to point this out.
I'm going to feed my dog, so just keep going.
Sure. July 17th on the Gregorian calendar is July 4th on the Julian. And that's important because Trump has always talked about Jubilee, Independence Day. And he's always been referring back to the Julian calendar. Many, many times Pascal has said something about a date, and he says, not on the current calendar, meaning it's not Gregorian, it's Julian. Thank you for your participation today, by the way. SCOTUS already heard and ruled on the Brunson case. You heard me talking on Patriot Underground show about this being a black swan event. Something to be used as a narrative to get people home. Does it change anything by having a ruling? No, it doesn't. Does it bring truth to the situation? Yes, it does. And that's all it is. A little bit more, you can read through this on how they ruled on it. They've already ruled that there was voter fraud. And it just kept coming back and coming back and coming back. And I believe that's why the Lord brought it up as a prophetic word, having me do a 180-degree turn when that question was asked to me by Patriot on his show, last one I did with him. Now, this is extremely important. I read through the Nassar agreements. I was at the special meeting in 1994 with Dan Rostenkowski, chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee. This was one of the things that he talked about that I hadn't disclosed yet. And that was a new voting system. So what I want to do is kind of walk you through what we're going to have for a voting system, how it's going to operate, and why it's been set up that way. Okay. We can't use the prior election system. It's flawed. It's corrupt. So using a brand new electronic system through the change to the quantum financial system, by us having to go through the redemption centers, we become validated to vote in our country. Now, who isn't going to be eligible to vote in our country? Anybody that doesn't get approved to go onto the QFS to have a quantum access account. So you can't be a person that wasn't naturalized, meaning you became a citizen of the state. There's no way to cast a corrupt vote because you can't hack the XRPL QFS through Starlink operating in the fifth dimension. All the prior election systems are voided, so there's no Dominion, there's no Luciferian deep state cabal, Khazarian mafia, fractionalized fiat reserve banking system interference. But the great thing is everybody that goes through and is given their quantum access account is automatically a valid voter, and we're going to do all the voting right through our Q phone or our Q laptop. Now, under NESARA, it requires a new election that has to be completed within 120 days after NESARA. So think of it this way. Anytime they're talking about an election, you want to interpret that as that's our QFS voting system. It's a new system, foolproof, unhackable, registered and authenticated for every single person. Now, this is what's so cool. It's all done. We get qualified when we do our redemption center appointment. We're going to use our Q phone and our Q laptop. So that becomes the permission. Everyone on the QFS must vote. And hasn't that been a huge problem? I mean, I've heard in the Christian world, like 35% of the people vote, but yet they're supposed to make up 95% of the voters. If you don't vote, your account's frozen. There's no way that you can't vote without putting your account at risk, because everybody needs to vote. And then I asked the Lord, I said, Lord, how long is all this going to take? You know, you got 120 days. He goes, Dave, we're going to get it done in 3 hours and 17 minutes. I went, hallelujah. I said, lay it out for me. So this is an example. It'll start on the day it's supposed to start at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. It'll be open for 3 hours. So voting will close at, in this example, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The QFS will process the results, and 17 minutes later at 3:17 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the result of the election will be known. Bingo. That's it. It's done. It will actually be known by 3 p.m. in 1 second. But he wanted to put the number 17 in there. So it isn't going to take 100 days. So any thought of a November election under the old protocols, just scratch it away. Just throw it in the trash. That's not what's going to happen. Matter of fact, we can't do that. And I think that the kill switches are in all of the Dominion voting machines because they have a hard drive, because they have a motherboard. And I think the cabal was prepared to lock up all of those computers if they were going to be investigated to a degree where they could just do it. But see, they lost control. And the White Hat Global Military Alliance took over that kill switch company. So the cabal couldn't use it. And that's why they were able to go in and actually tabulate the votes and see what was going on. But isn't this cool? It's like, hey, we don't need to waste any more energy on talking about some election protocol or process that was corrupt and has been corrupt forever. We've got a system that literally is done in real time. It qualifies everybody that is able to participate. And it doesn't let anybody in or allow a vote to be cast that is improper, because only individuals can vote using their quantum phone and their quantum laptop. When he showed me this, it was like, hallelujah. So see how he's simplifying everything for us? He's throwing out the trash, getting rid of the crap, and just making it pure and holy and exactly what it's supposed to be. And you may have heard me say that Trump did say that he's going to run the entire government on 10% of what it has now. So everybody's being replaced. But we're only going to need 10% of the people. And with the increase in GDP, because of the increase in the amount of money in the system, the only money that they take in is the consumption tax or the national sales tax of 14%. And they're going to split that with the states. So our republic will keep 7%, the states will keep 7%. And I ran through the calculations, and the total cost structure is only 37.5% of what it used to be to run our financial system, our government. So that's pretty cool. They're dropping clues like there's no tomorrow. All of a sudden, I'm looking on the internet and somebody posts this picture. Now, I added a few things to it. I added this right here, and I added this right here. But look what it says. Only citizens vote. Now, if that's not a word from God about what I just described, and here they are doing this press conference. It's hiding in plain sight. It's all being taken care of through Nasara. So keep your eyes open, because they're dropping these clues. XRP. Is the settlement of XRP required? No, it's not. The SEC is just protecting XRP before it can be officially made known what its purpose is. It's been operating parallel to our financial system since inception, without any errors. So it's been mirroring the global financial network. Now they had to dumb it down, and they had to make it look like it was like all the other tokens out there, operating at 1,500 transactions per second. Like that was, fantastic. But because we have the buyback incorporated into Nasara Jasara, because the Asian elders paid for it, it's all facilitated right here, just as if it was a bond or a currency, because they're the only ones that have been trained and have the quantum language contracts. Because when you leave, because you had your humanitarian initiative trust ticket with the template, you're going to be given a temporary trust document in quantum language that can then be taken to a certified preparer to maximize the preparation of your trust agreement to protect your money. So it has legacy components to it. And it's completely private because it's covered under the non-disclosure. See, that was a big problem when we were in the valuation committee discussing how this would all look. And of course, there was hundreds of attorneys required, a ton of documents, and trying to create a system of flow and of architecture to protect those digital assets. It just became too much. And when they began to increase the protection element through the non-disclosures to where you could, like I said, you could lose your money. Some people will have non-disclosures that last the entire term of their structured redemption, which could be 50 years, 100 years. There's a reason for that. And what the Lord had shared with me was one of the factors is the XRP buyback, because it was such an area of contention between people that owned Bitcoin and people that owned XRP. Originally, the buyback was supposed to happen in December of 2021. God moved it into the second position. He moved Nasara Jasara into the first position. He consolidated a 5-year plan into what we're going to see happen in 3 years. And that was to make sure that none of the rats got out. But what I've come to see and understand, and I'm trying to articulate this in a way that you can too, is originally the goal was to produce the pricing discovery for XRP, so we knew what the global liquidity reserve requirement was. That had nothing to do with XRP as having a price. So in that discovery process, I had to find out what asset we were going to use to come up with a valuation for all the money. And I used the gold that was put up by the Asian elders. And then I discounted it by over 99.9999999%. So it ended up being a valuation of $100 quadrillion, which is 10 to the 17th power. There's that 17 number again. Isn't that interesting? It's just 10 to the 17th. And that X right there represents the number, the base of 10. And Q, the letter Q, quantum, is the exponential value. So X with Q as the exponential, being 17, because Q is the 17th letter of the alphabet. You have to have that number first to divide it by 100 billion minted XRP tokens. The result is $1 million. And that's the valuation that XRP carries as the master key. That's then backed by gold, 62.5%. The other 37.5% made up of silver, platinum, and copper. An XLM is backed by a percentage of gold, and then it's backed by the nickel, copper, and platinum. So that's how we, if you want to call it, monetize or tokenize the 100% gold asset backed standard for all the financial systems around the world, which are all part of the BRICS Accord. But it's seamless. And as the Lord put it, he said, Dave, the journey was never to convince people about the price being determined at $1 million. It was to give them enough information to make an informed decision. And he said, I need everybody to use their free will to determine the price that they want for their XRP. And when he said that, it made so much sense. Why? Because one of the protocols in order for free title that I discovered on the records for Wyoming, it said that there couldn't be any adverse claims. So nobody could come forward and say, no, I got gypped, I got cheated, I was coerced. That can't happen when you determine the price. And you've probably heard me say this before.
Quick question. Is this your website, davexrplion.com?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And that's where people can sign up to have their name on the official guest list for the gala event that we're going to have in Phoenix, Arizona, at the Cardinal Stadium when this is all done. But, and I lost my train of thought. Where was I, Jesse? Do you remember?
Sorry, just trying to go through all these comments as people are asking about your website, and
yeah, it's just a database that people can drop their contact information into. We're not doing anything with that information. We're not selling it. We're not contacting anybody until we're through this whole process. And it just puts you on the list to have first opportunity to come for the event, because there's only so many tickets. But we want to give everybody that does that first opportunity. So see if I can remember where I was here. Oh, yes.
I did want to address a comment. So just hold that thought. People are asking, how will people who are currently in mental health facilities be given the care that they need? How are the homeless going to be cared for? How are things? So just remember that, people that are growing food are still going to grow food. People that are transporting goods are still going to transport goods. People that are, working in, these facilities are still going to be in these facilities, right? Because most people that, are in the position that they're in, are doing that because they want to do it, not because they have to do it, right? This is just what they've chosen to do. So society just doesn't break down and nothing is functioning and people aren't taken care of, right? This is just going to be an added bonus that there's going to be no darkness when it comes to this, and that what people are doing actually means something because they're contributing to society, and the positions that aren't contributing will just kind of fade off. But people will be taking care of it. So if you have any worry about things breaking down where people won't be looked after, I don't think that you should be concerned about that, especially if you got a family in a nursing home or whatever it is, or in a mental health institution. Know that they're not just going to be left behind.
Exactly. Everything will be better than it was, because the nefarious element will be gone and people will enjoy doing what they're doing. It's kind of like, I look at somebody that's growing their own food, excuse me. And now with the additional resources, Look at all the new things that they can buy, the tools. I mean, one of the first things that's on my list is CNC machines, laser cutting machines, all kinds of tools that can do things that I didn't have the finances to do. So I just have these projects lined up to do things. And the increase in knowledge to do this stuff, off the chart. Plus the release of the patents. I mean, you guys are going to be doing stuff with food that people didn't even think about, which is really exciting.
People were saying you were talking about XRP.
Yes.
The price of XRP.
Yes. So when it comes right down to it, I think it's the next slide. Let's see, where is it at? Yes, right here. Just look at it from the standpoint that you're at the redemption center, and one of the questions or protocols is just a simple: would you like to participate in the redemption of your XRP? Yes or no? Well, but what about, all I need is a simple yes or no, sir. Well, I just need a simple yes or no so I can ask you the next question. Yes, I would like to participate. Great. If you'll follow me over here to the terminal, if you take a look, it's going to list how many XRP that you have. This is coming right off of the XRPL. Hit 1 to identify that number as the correct number. 1, enter. Okay. Now it's going to ask you to enter the price that you want per your XRP. Well, how much, what do I put in there? Whatever's on your heart, sir. Whatever's on your heart, man. Whatever I want? Yes, you get to pick the price. You don't get to call a friend. You don't get to, get on your Twitter account and see what the community wants to do. It's between you and God. And he's already put that number in your heart. And you're going to enter it in. And then it's going to register your balance. And at the same moment, it's going to transfer what you held in digital assets directly to the U.S. Treasury. So the U.S. Treasury is going to, through XRP, remit the funds. And at the same time, right? Because remember, it works from both sides, right? It knows what the buyer has, it knows what the seller wants, and it does that seamless, trustless transaction. So everybody gets what it wants, and it confirms that they received your XRP. It confirms that you received those funds into your Quantum Access account, and you move on to the next station. That's simple. It's covered under your non-disclosure agreement. So you can't leave and have your neighbor pop over and say, "Hey, John, how did your redemption center appointment go?" "Oh, it went great." "Well, how did it go? With your XRP?" And I'm assuming this is a person that, is tuning in to understand this. "Oh, it was so easy. It just took, less than a minute." "Well, how much did you get?" "Well, I got X." "Oh, okay." So now when the neighbor goes, is he going to enter what John entered? No, he's going to enter a higher amount. And that's what they are going to avoid with the non-disclosure. So people aren't affecting what somebody puts in. Why? Because that person could come back 6 months from then and say, "You know what? I'm gonna file a grievance because somebody told me what they entered, and I chose a different number. It wasn't the number in my heart." So they could file a claim. This way, no one can file a claim because they chose the number that was in their heart. And I think I mentioned before, I took it to the community and I made the community aware of this the moment the Lord made me aware of it, and they about wanted to lynch me. I have to pick the price? Yeah. God's letting you pick the price. Well, it was almost like they wanted to say, no, I don't want to pick the price, because they're so afraid of picking the wrong number. But that's not what it's about. You're going to pick the number that God put into your heart, and that's all you need to be concerned about. Now, the people that know it carries $1 million value, they're not going to put $250 in. They're going to put $1 million, and they're going to get $1 million because it's already been provided for by the Asian elders. The ones that aren't aware are going to pick something between $10 and $100. Why? Because that's what God put in their heart. Nobody manipulated them. Nobody told them what they had to do. Matter of fact, the process is completely voluntary, because what was the first question? Do you want to participate? Yes or no? If you don't want to participate, they simply inform you that there's no longer a market available. And thank you for letting us know what you wanted to do. It's no different than the person on Survivor that doesn't use the immunity idol, and they go home with a souvenir. That's what it would become, a souvenir, because there's no stock market. There's no digital assets that are trading, because they're all gone. They didn't meet the ISO 222 compliant requirement. They're not functionally necessary. And that's going to be a big wake-up call for people. Because when you have a financial structure that is 100% gold asset backed, there's now no longer volatility. There's no longer inflation. There's no longer deflation. And there's no longer a need for gold as a store of value. And Bitcoin has been labeled a store of value. We don't need that anymore. And it goes bye-bye too. Ethereum goes goodbye. So we have our 8 tokens, XRP being Snow White, and then the 7 dwarfs being the other 7 tokens. They're just going to do the heavy lifting in the 3rd dimension for routing transactions that go up into Starlink that are then transferred to one of the 4 service centers for the XRPL in the 3rd dimension, Cheyenne Mountain, Reno, Spain, and where's the other one? Drawing a blank. But that's where the XRPL in the 5th dimension is accessed. That's where the gateway is. And we've talked about Stargate and how the show was filmed in Cheyenne Mountain, where the Stargate is, right there. So that's what opens up the connection for the flow of data that's required to be recorded, stored, reported, recorded, and stored onto the XRPL in the 5th dimension, permanent record, and for the liquidity that needs to flow. So the gold and the other precious metals are there to put the value there to back XRP, back XLM, but it never physically has to move. It's like just being given credit. And this is where the stablecoin idea that Ripple's been talking about comes into play. And that has to do with identifying the takeover for Tether. Because Tether is the equivalent to the cabal's bad bank, where the Federal Reserve would open up an institution, throw all the bad loans into it, and then shut it down, destroy it. So the banks didn't have to be taken down with it. Well, Tether is that bad bank for the digital asset space. It owns 15% of Bitcoin, and it has taken over all of the treasury bonds that were sold back by the BRICS countries because we've made a clean break from the cabal financial system. And that's why it was so necessary for all 209 nations to sign the BRICS Accord, because they signed the Jassara Accord. And you had to sign both. So the BRICS Accord, while it doesn't look like it's, complete and functional, it was already complete years ago. They're just holding off in the narrative that, we got 5 more countries that want to join. But the moment the representation that Trump signed the Republic into it on the 11th of April, that killed any hope for the cabal system. So it just basically decapitated it. So any talk about CBDCs or them using coins and things like this, it's just part of the SORA, the strategically orchestrated reality awareness war. But they're not doing anything because it was already done. So it's the acting that's taking place. But see, it was so cool the way he laid out the buyback and how simple it was. But see, this was a process that had to be hidden. It's still hidden. And I want to come back over here and show this, because when this chart got put together, it was a way of helping people understand why the price of XRP doesn't move. And that's the biggest question people ask. Well, wait a minute, it's tied to Bitcoin. Bitcoin went up, but XRP didn't go up. It's not tied to Bitcoin. It's tied to transactions per second. And I was able to correlate transactions per second to the $1 million valuation that XRP has on the QFS, and what that looks like as a market price for XRP. So right now, what's the price of XRP? We're down here somewhere, right? 46 cents, 56 cents right in here. But look at the transaction speed. Let's just call it 1600 per minute or per second. Brad Garlinghouse already told us that they were going to turn the knob up into that 3,400 to 3,800 range. That takes us right up to that $1,000 valuation. So where are we at today? We've got the lawsuit. The SEC continues to posture with a valuation that continues to decrease, just to kick the can down the road. I'm hearing that the news is going to come out when we're in the 10-day lockdown period. And why would that be so well orchestrated? Because we can't call a friend. We can't go to Twitter. We can't get community behind us. We have to deal with it. Just us and God. And nobody is going to know what price we selected. Well, they know what I'm selecting. They know what you're selecting. And the people that they associate with that know. But outside of that, again, it's like the evaluation for the ZIM, best kept secret in the world. But God revealed everything related to it, because it all follows base 10 math. And I say that because, again, it flows through everything. It flows through the pricing for the dinar, the bolivar, the dong, the ZIM bonds. Because it's perfect math. It's true. And I had 2 years of mentoring from the genius who broke my cousin W.D. Gann's codes. Now, did I ever think I was going to use it like this? No way. But I can look at numbers, Jesse, now, and I can see the relationships, and I can see how they fit together and whether they're base 10 or they're trying to hide things. So let's come over here and let's get into the ZIG, if you're okay with that. When I got the information that Zimbabwe had their official digital gold coin, and they presented the exchange rates, it was like manna from heaven. I still had to go in and do the math because they brought some new components into it, some new thoughts to try to camouflage it so people couldn't figure it out. So after about 3 weeks, I broke that code. And then that's when on your show, we disclosed this. And everybody for the first time got to see what the in-country rate would calculate out to based upon the valuations from the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. Dave didn't make these numbers up. Dave pulls these numbers off of the internet every single day. I posted on that twice a week. I update the schedule to give people an update on the price. So we have the valuation of 1 ZIG to the dollar. We have $1 to the ZIG. We have the closing price for gold. And then we use that to calculate what it would be with a $100 trillion ZIM bond. I take out 1/4 of 1%, which is the commission we're going to have to pay for them to finalize the transaction. And I show the net amount of money after the commission. Okay. That's what we know at this very moment right now. Now, there's a person from Banknote World. His name is Craig George. Finally found out his last name. This is his telephone number. And apparently he's been assigned as the liaison for, we'll just call it our group, all of us that know about this now. And they're offering a perpetual 10% off for anybody that goes in to Banknote World and makes a purchase. And that's the code you enter. Now, if you don't enter this code, you don't get the extra 10% off. If you don't know where to put the code, call him on the phone and he'll instruct you where the code goes. I think the first time I bought a ZIM bond, nobody told me that there was a 10% discount code that you could get. And then when I got it, I couldn't figure out where to put it. So like for my first 2, I didn't get any discount on it at all. But we don't trip over pennies on the way to dollars, right? So this was our first understanding because there's 3 rates. There's an in-country rate, an international rate, and then there's a contract rate. We're always going to ask for the higher of the special or contract rate. Now, I think the next slide, nope, we got one more slide. We're safe. This is what God allowed me to put out there, the last show with Jesse. And this is all I could say. So I didn't break the promise that I had to make to him, not disclosing the price. The first 2 numbers are the quantum sum of Q. What is the number associated with Q, Jesse?
17.
17. It's the 17th letter of the alphabet. What's the multiple to go from a non-quantum environment to quantum. It's 4. So if I take 4 times 17, I get 68. The first two numbers are 6, 8. That represents $68 billion. So if you broke that code, then congratulations. This is a chart that I look at every single day, and it shows me the value of gold and the ZIG. So the green is the ZIG and the blue is the gold. So I matched them both up, and I synced them up as of the 12th of March. Here we go. We're gonna show the in-country rate, and then I'm gonna show you the international rate. I was able to determine, excuse me, I'm sorry about that. Let me back up for a second. We've been told that all the countries' currencies are going to be pegged 1-to-1. However, the ZIM bond didn't have a currency. It had gold, because that's what the Asian elders gave it, gold. So I made this comment before, and I said, we can't look at the value of a dollar in relationship to a dollar on a ZIM bond. So $100 trillion on a ZIM bond is not equal to a redemptive value of 100 trillion US dollars. And I want to make sure everybody understands that. The redemption is with gold, not the dollar. Okay? So I had to go in and I had to calculate how many milligrams of gold went into 100 trillion dollars for a ZIM bond, because there was a ratio. And this was the number. It was 9.91375 milligrams. Now, these milligrams of gold are equivalent in ounces to this number right here. Okay? 0.003499. These are constants. These don't change. So knowing this, knowing the base 10, knowing how the structured payback was being set up, I was able to determine what the dollar value for the gold was in ounces. And by using that, I was then able to determine what the payout is. Now, all we had to begin with was these three values at the bottom. And we saw that right here. We had one ZIG to the US dollar, one US dollar to the ZIG, and we had gold. And from these three numbers, we're able to calculate the conversion for a $100 trillion ZIM bond into US dollars. And I say that because I want you to see how I was able to take their rates and what they presented and proof it or balance it to what I already knew back in June of 2023. That's when I first cracked the code. And I had been sitting on it the entire time. God wouldn't let me reveal it. So these are the numbers that I used to create the valuation model. This is what we got from the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe. Now, I could have played around with this thing and got the exact ratios so this number here matched, but it wasn't necessary, because you can go back and look at the slide over here, and you can see that these valuations that come in here, they're in par with these valuations right here, with gold at $2,357 an ounce. That creates gold to the ounce, or 1 USD to ZIG, this number, 1 ZIG to USD, this number, and it equates to this value. So you can see how comparable they are. Close enough with hand grenades and horseshoes, right? So then I had to figure out what was my multiple in order to get from the in-country rate to the international rate. And this is going to blow your mind. Back in the valuation committee, when I went over to help Jimmy in that first 2 offers to the Federal Reserve in the US Treasury, and I brought my base 10 model over, I was able to determine these multiple factors of 1.25, 2.5, and then a third multiplication factor that were consistent with everything that was happening with regards to the math for gold, price discovery, etc. So again, I had these templates all ready to go, and I just had to figure out how they were dividing everything up for the structured payout. So you can see we went from a factor of 1.25 to 2.25. It just doubled. This number right here is this number right here doubled. It was that simple. And remember, God said it's not complicated. It's just really, really simple. Well, we're not going to have anything to do with the international rate. So that's going to be for other countries. The United States, the Republic, is going to get to use the contract rate. So this is what I'd like to do, Jesse. I'd like to go into the contract rate slide. I want to spend a few minutes going over that. And then I'd like to take a 5-minute break where we stop recording. And that's your time, everybody, to get over to banknoteworld.com and purchase these $100 trillion ZIM bonds, uncirculated. And then we're going to come back in 5 minutes and we're going to pick up where we left off. And I want to do that because anybody that's watching this right now, you deserve to have the advantage. First come, first serve.
Sounds good. So let's take a 5-minute break.
Well, no, I want to go to the next slide so they can see it.
Okay.
Okay. Again, I had to break everything down and everything proofed. And I want you to look at this number right here. That's the number that I determined was the valuation for an ounce of gold on the QFS. And how did I get here? The US dollar depreciated from $1 down to a nickel. So in order to get a nickel back up to $1, my multiple was 20 times. My price for gold was $1,953.12.5. When you multiply that times 20, it takes you to $39,062.50. Now here's where it's going to blow your mind. If I now take this and I multiply it times 16, and what is 16, Dave? 16 represents the multiple to go from ounces to pounds. And you're going, well, wait a minute. How does going from ounces to pounds factor into the value for gold on the XRPL? Here's where it matters. Brad Garlinghouse at one point came out and said this. We have just, Ripple Labs has just joined the Pound Foundation. And I remember when I heard it, it was like God said, remember that Clue right there, Dave. So we're doing everything that we're working on, and I'm running all the numbers, getting everything adjusted, and I'm explaining to Jimmy how the pricing is going to work on the XRPL and the QFS for XRP being backed by gold and all of the gold that they confiscated from the tunnels, which is all the gold they need for at least 200 years. And I said, remember, Ripple joined the Pound Foundation, Jimmy, not the Ounce Foundation. He just let out this big belly laugh. And I showed him, I said, well, Jimmy, when you take this number times 16, it's $625,000 even. And he went, oh my gosh. Well, 62.5% of $1 million is $625,000. It proofed right to the value for XRP using a pound of gold. From one comment that Brad Garlinghouse made, we joined the Pound Foundation. That's how God does this stuff. Isn't that amazing? Now we come right back to the percentage or the numbers that we saw for gold. Here's how many milligrams, this is how many ounces. And when we use that with what we know to be the QFS, it gives 1 USD a value of $13.66. Now, this, you can't make this stuff up, everybody. One of the things that came out within 2 days of the governor identifying that there was now a gold-backed standard for the ZIM, in their press release, they said the value is $13.66 USD. And it didn't connect to anything in the exchange model. It was just stuck there. So people could see it, but they wouldn't know what to do with it. Well, I just held on to it because I knew it was part of what we needed to know. So this is my comment about it not being one-to-one based upon dollars. It's based upon gold. So what I did is in the structured payout, it starts with 1 year and it goes all the way to 100 years. And there's some standard terms. 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, 10 year, to 100. There was one comment that was made. And the comment was, or you can ask for any number of years that you want. Now you're going to see in a second how critical that one comment was. So what I was able to do was I was able to take the highest rate that's available. I was able to run it through my model, and it gave me the representation of 1 over 100, 2 over 100, 5 over 100. And this is how we got to the value in gold per ounce based upon this being 100, which you can see right here. And it took us right to the value for gold per USD. And then when we multiplied that times 100 trillion, that's how we got our structured value. So in this scenario, knowing what we know, and all these are set in stone, a 1 year program is going to pay $13 billion. A 2 year program is going to pay twice that. 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 25 years, 50, and 100. And anything in between that a person might want to pick. So with that, let's take that 5-minute recess. Go do what you need to do. And we'll then pick up from here. That way you guys are guaranteed to have first opportunity to get in there and get what you want. That sound okay?
Yeah, sounds good. We'll see you in 5 minutes.
Okay.
So for some pretty fascinating information, everyone. Just wanted to welcome you all. If you had a chance to go do that, if that feels in alignment there with you. We have here on all of our different platforms. We're live on Facebook. We're live on Facebook,
Coming back.
LinkedIn, Rumble, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. We've got, let's see, we've got like 1,300 people here with us live right now. Appreciate all your likes, comments, hearts, shares, and stars. Thanks for sharing this out. And if this is in alignment with you, great. If it's not, then you just go about your day, and best of luck to you.
Well, and you can say you were here on that historic day.
Yeah.
There's few days that are going to be remembered. This is one of them. This is one of them. And the only thing that I can say, excuse me, is God never would have allowed this if we weren't so close. Because I asked him, I said, well, Lord, you wouldn't allow me to release this before. And he said, that was because I hadn't prepared hearts yet. So if tomorrow's the day, hallelujah. Because if you number out tomorrow, and you count the 13 days, 10 plus 3, and you count 9 to 10 days to go through the Redemption Center, we're at July 4th, Jesse.
Yes.
And we know Trump loves Independence Day. Let's see here.
You like dancing?
I'm not a dancer, but I hope you know what I'd really like to do is play that little video clip that I put out on my page.
Oh yeah.
Or it's on Rumble.
Yeah, let's find that. We can. Oh, actually, does it have copywritten music? Because it'll get us taken down.
No.
If any of it's copywritten, no.
Nope.
Okay.
No, we're fine on that.
Someone said, "Don't forget the discount code FILMAC." Does that mean anything?
Nope, not to me.
So just be aware that Dave doesn't know anything about that code. Whoever posted that, that's not
Capital
part of
C, capital G, 1776. And if you call Craig at Banknote World, make sure that you tell the receptionist to connect you to him. Because he said a lot of people aren't putting in the codes. And he said, depending upon what a person wants to do, there can be additional discounts that he can give to you over the phone that can't be published, he said. Oh, well, that's the clearest I've looked.
Okay.
I can't wait to not have to wear glasses.
That's right here.
Give Jesse a big thank you for what he does here with this platform. It's so great.
And just thank you both. You're very welcome. And we had a couple days ago, we had Gene Decode. Yesterday we were supposed to have Crow 777. He had to cancel the interview for medical reasons. Today is or we had earlier on, we had Rebecca Shepherd, a Canadian activist, amazing information. Then now we have here Dave XRPLion tomorrow. We've got an ex-military police force guy who's going to be talking about the artificial intelligence, and he's kind of in the business world. We have him first. He is Ryan J. Velli. And then we've got Pascal Najati tomorrow. And then on the 24th, we've got Daniel Alexander Cannon. He's got quite a large YouTube following, talks a lot about the Lord and the Bible. And then we've got Patriot Underground. And then on Tuesday, we've got Chris Duchek, who's got a cafe here in Edmonton, where it's like a conscious cafe. She talks to interviews people about near-death experiences. And then we've got David Nino Rodriguez. So kind of a pretty crazy, a crazy, schedule of a lot of people who are out there. So please like, subscribe, share this out. Check out in the link in the bio all of our different platforms. Subscribe to all of our platforms, because you never know with these systems. What's going to happen with what platform. We almost got turfed off of Facebook because one of the guys who we were interviewing talks about aliens, and he said something about Nazi/Zionism, and then we got striked, and then they said it was hate speech, and just because he had that into the thing, and then we had a week off of YouTube. So who knows how this goes. Rumble seems to be pretty good. So make sure you subscribe to our Rumble channel, and we actually do benefit from people watching on Rumble. So if anybody does watch any of our replays of our 800, this is our 802nd interview. Most of them are up on Rumble. You could spend the next year trying to watch all of our interviews. And if you do, watch them on Rumble is where we just ask, because, you can always double the speed or make it faster, but we actually get credit for that. So, thank you for I don't know, I think we're up to 1,350 people that are here watching with us live right now.
And there is a program that you can download for Google for the browser. It's a video. Oh, what's it called? Let's see. It's called Video Speeder. Video Speeder. And you click on it, and it gives you a bar that you can move. And the video platform can't override it. Like I've noticed watching videos, I watch it 175 or 200, and then they pull it back down to 1, even though it's still clicked on 175. But you use this video speeder that you add to your extensions through Google, and you can go up to 6 if you want to. You can actually use it when you record your videos too. I made that mistake once. But
okay, you want to play this? Want me to play this video?
Yeah, let's go ahead and watch this. Let me get a little preview on this. As I was beginning to prepare things to be able to upload, after the show and things like this onto Before It's News, I started putting this little video together, and God's been giving me more creativity in a lot of this stuff. And when we finally got it just right after 2 days, I said, wow, okay, I'm all ready for the show. He goes, put it out there. Let everybody see it. Let them see it now. And I went, really? He goes, yeah, I like it. I said, okay. So this is kind of an introduction that if you kind of look at the pictures and stuff, there's a lot of symbolism in there. But I hope you like it.
Berkeley's asking the code again. What?
Capital C, capital G. Let me come over here. 1776. CG 1776.
Here's a question for you. Can Dave expand on where the XRP should be in order to redeem at the redemption centers, please?
When we say where it should be, can I get a little understanding on that?
Think where in the ledger, where in your pocket, where should your XRP be?
Well, the preferential placement is that you have redirected it from one of the platforms and you have run it through your cold wallet, your Ledger Nano, and that you have the keys. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And Joe says they're going to copyright it on YouTube. Yeah, YouTube and Facebook, it's probably going to get blocked or shut down on those. So I know you used it on Rumble, but they don't care so much about like the other platforms. That's why with any music that we put on, we have to put on non-copywritten music because that's copywritten, and so they hit us hard for that. Sometimes give us strikes.
Okay. Well, we're just gonna believe right now that there's no strikes.
Okay.
Nobody can understand what he says anyway. So how can you penalize for that? Let's see here. I thought I was sharing.
It was, but you stopped the screen share. Some people are asking about credit unions. So Tulu says, what about our only Canadian gold and silver backed credit union in Alberta, Bow Valley Credit Union? Will there be more benefits to having funds there?
Well, credit unions are different. Did it come on?
Yeah, I just didn't bring it up.
Okay. So how do I see it? There we go. Okay. Credit unions are different in how they're backed. Like we have FDIC for banks, and then we have NCUA for credit unions. Credit unions aren't even required to meet Basel III requirements, which is kind of interesting. So I believe that has to do with because they're member owned and they're not bank owned or investor owned. So a credit union is on the XRPL or a quantum access account, just like anything else. And I actually prefer a credit union over a bank. So you don't run into those FDIC issues. Oh, by the way, that was another thing that happened last week. The head of the FDIC quit. So there's another event to check the box. So you can see this.
What's the FDIC?
Federal Depositors Insurance Corporation or insurance company. So they're the ones that when a bank goes under, the Federal Reserve hands them to the FDIC, who then determines where they get placed, where the customer accounts go. And they use a company called Umpqua Bank. It's a Fed bank. It's like when we were up in Washington State, we had a lot of banks that went under in 2008 with the financial crash. And all the customer accounts were moved over. Let's do a little poll real quick, Jesse. If you purchased a $100 trillion ZIM bond, just send Jesse a yes. We're not going to count them, but it just tells us that this information is valuable for people. Okay. Can I proceed to the next slide?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, this is our in-country rate. They didn't have the $100 trillion ZIM bond in country because they had already purchased them all back in 2015, 2016. And this was one of the things that I know I've heard mentioned before, but that's what the deep state did in these foreign countries. We went in under the guise of war to devastate their currency so that the cabal and the elite came in and bought it all up for pennies on the dollar, knowing that the United States would come back in and raise the currency back up. And they did this over and over and over and over and over again. Terrible. Okay, we did that. We did that. We did that. Okay, we're over here. And we're looking at the structured payout. Now, again, the structured payout was something that was new. And it came about because part of tier 3, which had to do with a lot of very, very large holders. We're talking people with a brick, a brick, like that thick, which had 500 or more in a brick. And you could have bought a brick at one time for $500, Jesse, with 500 $100 trillion bonds in it for $500. They were found to be nefarious. And all of the ZIM bonds were confiscated and none of them were redeemed. And when that happened, there were over 30,000 accounts and more than 50% of them were taken back, clawed back. That opened up the door for the percentage that we could receive to increase. Because originally we were only supposed to get 5% for personal, which meant 95% had to go to our humanitarian projects. And the way they have played it out is they had no intention of people walking in knowing what was going on, not having a humanitarian initiative trust template, just walking in with some ZIM, dinar, dong, and then getting the lowest default rate possible. But the numbers were so big, people would just begin to spin out and go, oh my gosh, thank you, Lord. But it was only a fraction of a penny. So what I did is I went ahead and factored it through. Now, the reason why this chart is so important is because they made the determination that people were not going to have access, to all their money up front. And the way it sits right now, you only have access to 1 year's worth, either annually, semi-annually, or quarterly. So I took the fastest payment. We earn 0 interest on it. They don't pay any interest on it. There's no interest being paid on the quantum financial system. And I remember when the Lord gave me that revelation, I told Jimmy that. He goes, well, no, they have to pay interest. I said, we're going back to a biblically based financial system. You don't charge interest. You don't earn interest. So this is where you have a big advantage. Look under the quarterly payout. No matter what term you pick, the quarterly payout is the same for every option. Now, you would think that the bigger the term, you would get more quarterly, right? But you don't. It's the same. I don't think they're going to provide this information the way you're seeing it. So you're going to have a better way of discerning the information to make an informed decision, because you now know no matter what term you pick, you're not getting any more money quarterly with a longer term. Now, I'm going to go to the next slide. Now what I'm bringing in is the fact that when I did the decode on the Rosie Rios $100 bill, the 2009 version, and I broke down a timeline on it, the timeline said that by the year 2047, we would no longer need to use currency, Jesse. That we would have evolved consciously, and we would have replicators, and we would be able to create whatever we wanted. And the group that had the XRPL, that used it in their economy, only needed to use it for a certain amount of time. And we're going to find ourselves in that same boat. And that number was between 20 and 25 years. So what I wanted to represent for everybody is the fact that we don't want to pick a term that's too long where we leave money on the table. Meaning you never got to withdraw it and use it towards your projects. It's like having a gift card and you don't know when it expires. And then all of a sudden you're told, well, it expired yesterday and it had $1,000 on it and it still has $500 left on it. And you're like, man, if I knew it was going to expire, I would have spent that money on what I wanted to do. So remember I made the comment where they said, oh, excuse me.
I just got to take care of something, so just keep going. I'll be back.
They made the comment where we could pick the year, the number of years. Well, what I did is I split the baby and picked a base 10 number, and it chose 22 and a half years. So it optimizes how much money you're actually pulling out. So you're not leaving money on the table and you're not having that money. So when you go in, they're going to ask you to pick a term. You have to be comfortable with whatever you pick because it's permanent. It's not about how much money you get per month or per quarter. It's sorry about that. Hold on one second. It's about how long it's going to last. I'm sorry, my throat is just so dry. So you're going to maximize how much money you have. And that's what I try to do for everybody. So optimally, if we're going to have money and only need money till 2047, then 22 and a half years or 23 years is what we want to pick for our term. We don't want to pick 100. I'm going to show you what happens. Oops. Uh-oh. Okay. Sorry, everybody. Oh, I didn't go to the right slide. Here we go. Okay. So here's what we see. If we picked a 25-year term and our economy only functioned on currency for 22 and a half years, we would have had $34 billion in our account that we never got access to. If it was 50 years, that's 375 billion that we never had access to. It's 100 years. It's $1 trillion we never had access to. So I say this because it does us no good to pick a longer term with the understanding we won't need the currency. So, this is for educational purposes only. You'll have to decide what you want to do for yourself. But if you do pick these longer terms and we're not using currency by then all that money is going to be left on the table. And it's okay. It just wasn't added to your account based upon the rate associated with the number of years. Because here's what's likely to happen. And it was so funny. I was telling this to my wife, and the next day, it actually got reported exactly the way I described it. They're going to say, well, with the med beds, you can regress your age 3 times up to 30 years each. That's just almost another 100 years that you're going to have during your lifetime. Were you aware of that? Maybe choosing a 100-year term is more realistic to how long you're going to live. Now that's a great way to present it, but the other side of the coin is, okay, you can tell me that. Now tell me how long we're going to need currency. And they won't be able to tell you that. So this is why you have to make the choice. You have to decide for yourself. And I think with a couple of other slides you're going to see, the choice pretty much makes sense for itself. Now we talked about the default rate. So this is somebody that walks in with a ZIM bond. They have no humanitarian initiative trust. They're going to receive something in the range of 3.4 million to 34.2 million. 1% of 1% to 1% of 10%. Based upon this full value. That's it. They're not trying to incentivize them with a whole bunch of money because it's not necessary. That ZIM bond and all of its value is going to go into the global and the national initiatives, which is where it should go. But again, one of the greatest kept secrets. But God doesn't keep secrets. When we ask, we give him praise and thanksgiving. So what I did is I broke down the value on a sliding scale from a 20% personal portion down to a 5% personal portion. And again, please feel free to come back and take a look at these from a common sense point. So remember I mentioned that there's a portion that we're going to get to keep, which is considered personal. So in this upper one, I used 5% of the total being personal. And when I mean personal, you can do anything you want with it. There's no restrictions. You're going to get a 1% of it available when you leave. And once the 90-day period expires, you get all of the rest of the value unlocked. Isn't that cool? So in this case, if you had selected a 1-year term, 683 million would be available to you to do whatever you wanted with after 90 days. Less the 1% that you had immediate access to. And you get 1% of the humanitarian portion. So, imagine you're that person that is thinking, oh, I don't need a humanitarian initiative trust. I don't want to be bothered by having to do that. I just want the default rate. Well, there you go. 3.4 million to 34 million. But if you took some time and spent 15 minutes putting it together, look what you get. Even if you just chose the 1-year term. 683 million personal. You were going to get 34 tops. And then you got another tens, hundreds, millions, billions, another 12 billion on the humanitarian side. See, God wants to do all of this with you. That's the whole purpose. Now, if you don't want to do anything with God, that's a different story. But I know there's so many of you out there that have just lacked the resources. So you can live off of this right here. So it isn't about trying to push out for this valuation you're never going to get to. Now, in the little graph that I did, right? See how it's staggered, the percentages? That's the bottom one here. Now look how much you get for a personal portion if 20% of it goes to the personal side. Tens, hundreds, millions, billions. $2.7 billion. Holy cow. You select a 2-year term, you get 5.4 billion. 13, 27, 54. I mean, you get this now. This isn't locked up in the structured payout. You can do so much good with that right up front. that I just have to keep coming back and saying, there's no reason why you would not have a humanitarian initiative trust template ready to go. Even if every initiative on there, you had no desire to do it, you're not locked into those initiatives. You can change at any time. The reason why you want to have at least one of them written up that you're interested in is so when you have to give your 3 to 8 minute presentation, it's in your heart. And they'll know when you walk in, because you'll already be resonating it, how excited you are to do this. And that's the key. That's what takes us over the top. But when I started to run these numbers, remember, I started with 68 billion. And look where we are. I mean, we're like $259 billion. And again, it's not about the money. It's about God establishing the resource for humanity. What can be done? That's what it's all about. It's about the children. Okay? So please don't send me messages saying all I did was talk about the money. No. That's not why I signed up, having God asked me to be his messenger to reveal all this stuff. And he is honoring exactly what I had asked him for. And that was to have the finances of heaven pass through my hands. And I would say this qualifies right here, because I'm showing you what it is. I don't get a penny of this based upon what you get. Now, the Redemption Center guide gets 1/4%. I didn't subtract that out. It's a lot of money. But don't look at it in the respect that you're losing it. That would be a poverty mentality. Look at it from the respect, look what God has done and what he's made available. And he's not making it available for everybody. Otherwise, the government would hand everybody one. No. No, we're walking with the Holy Spirit, dwelling within us as our comforter, as our faith. Because with God, we are moving mountains. Our environment is being healed. Our air healed. Hearts healed. Trauma removed. And then to have 200 more years of life? Fantastic. Some people will start new families. God already said the population of the world is going to double in 12 and a half years. That means people are going to be having babies so they can afford them. And they'll lack for nothing. And I'm so excited to do this so you guys can see it. Because I want everybody to walk through this with their head held high, knowing what God has already done for them, giving him all the praise and glory, and then entering into that journey. It's not a destination, it's a journey. There's no striving. In the word, it says, steps are like butter. Just information about the Humanitarian Trust template. It's pinned to the top of my Twitter page. And there's now a new simplified template where I took all the graphics and made it flat. So you're not having to try to click through things as they pop up. All you have to do is deal with coming up with the name for your trust, and then going into your word editing program, pull in the graphic file, make it the size of the page, and then drop in your text boxes and fill those out. I even went ahead and put the date in there for you. You just have to do your contact information and the title. This is what it looks like right there. And this keeps people from changing what is not supposed to be changed. I mean, each one of these pictures was hand selected and approved for this document. Here's just some of the ways that you can quickly look at the $100 trillion bond and see if it's fake. And the easiest one to do is to come over here and look at the tips of the ends. On the real one, they match up. On the fake one, they're offset. On the fake one, there's no lines in these triangle graphics. In the real one, there's lines that go from one side through the color change to the other. But there's a whole booklet that I posted on that, so you can go through and look at everything. Now, this is going to kind of shock you. You can call Craig, and I would suggest this because this is why people are finding out. You want to make sure that you know if you have a $40 fake or you have a multi-billion-dollar authenticated note. Because now people are checking, they're going through the guide, and they're finding out they have the fakes. The good news is they had time to buy real ones. And they lay it all out in the PDF that I've posted. You can go to my profile page and just scroll down until you see it. But there's little tiny things that they couldn't make happen. And one of the biggest things is look at the fluorescence over here. It's just off the chart on the fake one, but it's barely seen on the real one. So that's a good tip off. You have to have a black light that has it more than a 12-watt bulb. And you can get that right from Banknote World. It's like $14 to get it. No, you can't use a Scorpion Finder flashlight. This talks about the purging. I don't want to spend much time on this. I would encourage you to go back and look, because this is the information that I got from my buddy about what's going on. I've been more subdued in talking about this. Pascal is not. Pascal has ripped the Band-Aid off, and he's talking about it just the way it is. And this gives you I'll call it a gentle understanding of what's taking place. And it talks about the kill switch. So there's a kill switch in all the PCs, and now there's a kill switch inside of everybody that took the V and the J words. And I was told that as the boosters were given, they actually multiplied the number of devices that were in there. So a person could have 20 devices inside of them already. But Space Force is able to hear everything that they talk about, and they're completely wired into them. But it makes sense. If you're going to shut off the corrupt internet, the corrupt stock market, this is how they're going to take care of the corrupt people. And I'm not being callous when I say it. We cannot have them in our society. God's already determined that. And that's why they're fighting tooth and nail, to make sure we don't. And that's our presentation for today. Jesse, are you around? So you can come and help us close out? But I want to thank everybody for your time today. We got done in record time with the most important thing that God has had me report on. When you think about it, a multi-billion-dollar bond versus $1 million XRP. The two greatest valuations of anything that's taking place right now. And you guys are here to hear about it. Thank you, Jesse.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming and sharing this information with us on this historic day. Appreciate you taking the time to inform people about what you feel is what's going on and what's coming. So thanks for all you do, brother.
Well, there's no do-overs. That's what God said. We've had plenty of time. We have to make a decision. There's no place to stand. So the most sensible thing to do is to run to him and let go of the world.
Sounds good. Well, may the source be with you and protection around you during this pivotal time in history. This was about a 4-hour double, I think, what we wanted to do, but I think you needed to get this information out. So knowledge is power. The more knowledge we all have collectively, the less power they have over us. Tune in tomorrow. We've got Pascal Najati on Monday, Patriot Underground. Tuesday, David Nino Rodriguez. Pretty wild, 5 or 6 days of, shows here on the Missing Link. It's just interesting how it all transpired that way. So,
well, let's hope they get to broadcast.
Yeah. Okay, you guys all have a great weekend.
God bless everybody.
God bless you all. For one love, one heart, one life. Namaste, everyone. And remember, if they ever ask you to put on a breathing inhibitor again, you know what to say. No maske. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Dave.
Bye-bye.